In ancient legends passed down through millennia, the healing spirit is revered as a mythical creature, possessing the power to regenerate all living things and bringing forth brilliant miracles like the twinkling stars in the night sky. Her magnificent beauty, like that of a full moon and a power beyond imagination, led humanity to respectfully worship her as an immortal deity. However, in the silent night, a mysterious whisper echoed, carrying the burning desire and fierce hope of a legendary dragon yearning to save its precious companion. With such a legendary reputation, could the healing spirit save Carlos the dragon's beloved pet? It gently bowed its head, its long, shimmering horn lightly touching the brilliant magic circle which radiated a light like 1,000 stars igniting against the cold stone floor. In a deep, warm voice mixed with unwavering faith, the dragon whispered, "O benevolent spirit creator, the great master of time summons you. Appear." A hopeful smile spread across its sparkling, scaled face, reflecting the shimmering light like precious gems in the cave. Without hesitation, the dragon continued, its voice filled with determination. "If you lend me your power, I will pay you a worthy price. Now answer my call at once." The magic circle at its feet erupted in a blinding light like a sacred flame burning away the encroaching darkness. From the center of the magic circle, a young man appeared, his body still tightly wrapped in a blanket, his eyes dazed as if just pulled from a deep dream, not yet understanding what was happening. The dragon was stunned, its colossal body frozen in place, its eyes filled with doubt as if it couldn't believe what was before it. The young man, Kim Ojin, was just as bewildered, his heart pounding as if it would burst from his chest in astonishment. The dragon, though disappointed, tried to remain calm and observed him with a sharp gaze. "Is this the face that surpasses all human standards of beauty?" It mumbled, its voice full of disbelief as if considering something incredible. But it quickly dismissed the stray thought. "Focus on what's essential, forget the looks. What's important is your power. Healing spirit, lend me your abilities." Still not understanding what was happening, Kim Ojin looked around the cold cave and mumbled in a trembling voice, "Did I finally die?" Kim Ojin, 32 years old, was a veterinarian whose journey had been arduous and full of struggles, having gone through 2 years of pre-vet and 4 grueling years of veterinary school to pursue his dream. In class, he was once yelled at by a professor for dozing off. "Hey, student, wake up! Do you want to be a farmer spreading manure everywhere?" After getting his license, he worked for 3 years for a meager salary, always struggling to survive in a harsh, unforgiving life. Requests like, "I can't afford to keep it anymore, can you take care of it for me?" were not uncommon, but he always replied in a weary voice, "Sir, this isn't an animal shelter." Eventually, he opened his own veterinary clinic, but it was nothing like the dream he had cherished. A neighbor sighed, "Doctor, the sign light is out again. This time, the character for your last name isn't lighting up. You should buy a new one." Day after day, the clinic was empty, and Kim Ojin lay in bed hungry and cursing his cruel fate. The rent and loan interest piled up like an invisible rope, tightening around him, making him consider death to escape the burden. Suddenly, a deafening noise from the neighbor's apartment rang out, shattering the silence of his small room. Kim Ojin grumbled, "Is that guy downstairs playing the guitar again?" He thought he was about to start a fight, but in that very moment, he was pulled into another world. Sitting up, he wondered in confusion, "Did I die of a heart attack in my sleep? Dying in your sleep wouldn't be so bad." He looked around, his heart pounding. This must be hell. Before him was a freezing cave, a giant talking dragon larger than an elephant, and a mountain of glittering gold and silver that ignited a flame of greed within him. The summoning circle beneath his feet glowed brightly, like a ritual to summon a demon from the void. He thought about how he had died without paying off his debts, and his mind spun as if caught in a whirlwind. Looking up at the dragon, he asked in a trembling voice, "What is to become of me?" The dragon roared impatiently, "You must treat my pet at once!" Kim Ojin stared blankly, his thoughts drifting. "I still have to work as a vet even after I'm dead, eh? This is definitely hell. The dragon's pet must be a hellhound," Kim Ojin thought with a sense of dejection. The white dragon, after all the effort of the summoning, said with fierce hope, "Heal my precious child." A thick cloud of dust rose as the dragon moved, causing Kim Ojin to cough violently, his eyes stinging. It gently placed a small purple dying creature into his hands. Carlos. Classification: fruit bat, age, unknown, introverted personality. The dragon introduced its eyes shining with the affection of a devoted father. Kim Ojin looked closely, his heart trembling slightly at the sight of the weak creature in his hands. "This is a bat, right?" he asked, his voice full of doubt, as if trying to confirm something strange. The dragon smiled proudly. "What do you think? Very cute, isn't he?" Kim Ojin froze, not knowing how to respond. his mouth clamped shut as if frozen. Observing the bat, he realized its condition was not good, emaciated, exhausted, its eyes dull as if about to fade. His veterinary instincts kicked in, and he asked seriously, "What is its name? How long have you had it? When did the symptoms start?" The dragon answered honestly, "His name is Carlos. I've only had him for a week. Raising bats is the new trend." It excitedly recounted meeting its other dragon friends who were showing off their pets. "My Blaze already knows how to use the bathroom," a robust dragon exclaimed. "My Sheech is the cutest of them all," another boasted. The white dragon, not wanting to be outdone, decided to raise a bat. "I found this little cutie stuck at the dungeon gate, so I brought him home," it explained innocently, its eyes sparkling with joy. Oh, hearing this, Kim Ojin's heart sank, his eyes filled with a disappointment like a moon obscured by clouds. He thought to himself, his heart sinking with despair. It turned out this dragon was the second type of owner he hated most: irresponsible people who get pets just to follow a trend. "Oh, this really is hell," he muttered to himself. It felt like fate was toying with him in a nightmare. Kim Ojin held his head wearily. He asked, his voice full of worry, but trying to stay calm, "This bat is too thin. How has he been eating lately?" he told himself. "At least this dragon hasn't abandoned Carlos." "I shouldn't be too harsh," the dragon replied with an enthusiasm mixed with a bit of naivety. Not too well. "He doesn't eat much." Then it lifted its chin, its voice a mix of complaint and pride. "Every day I bring fresh prey for him to drink blood from, but he won't even touch it. I guess he has a refined palate just like me." After hearing that, Kim Ojin nearly collapsed. His heart felt like it was being squeezed by a surge of anger. A stream of curses ran through his mind, but he held back, only muttering in a shaky voice, "Damn it, I'm about to lose my mind." The dragon still tilted its head innocently and asked, "What's wrong? Is something the matter?" Kim Ojin lowered his head, trying to stay calm, but finally couldn't hold back, and shouted in an indignant voice, "This bat doesn't eat blood. You've been starving him for a week by giving him something he can't eat." The dragon was stunned, its eyes wide, its gaze bewildered as if it had just been doused with cold water. But the dragon tried to argue, its voice weak. "But the other dragons said they feed their bats blood." Kim Ojin exploded, unable to hold back any longer. Different species. Their bats are the blood-sucking kind, but Carlos is a fruit bat. "You've starved him for a whole week!" He panted, feeling as if his occupational hazard was taking over his entire body, making him tremble with rage. The dragon, having been thoroughly scolded, stood dumbfounded and replied awkwardly, "This is my first time raising a bat. Then you should have studied." Kim Ojin yelled, gesticulating wildly as if to vent all his frustration. "If you want to raise a living creature, you have to be responsible. The temperature in this cave is freezing, which is keeping Carlos from coming out of hibernation." Looking at the pile of bones in the corner, he pointed, his voice sharp and cold. The dragon hurriedly explained, "I'm an ice dragon, so—" But Kim Ojin cut it off. His voice was ice-cold and unforgiving. "If you can't provide a suitable living environment, don't get a pet." His words were like a sharp blade, making the dragon look at him in a new light mixed with respect. It trembled slightly, thinking to itself, truly worthy of the name Healing Spirit to have such an overwhelming presence. But Kim Ojin was still struggling with his professional outburst, shouting, "Getting a pet just because it's a trend. Are they fashion accessories?" His heart ached for the innocent creatures that were treated unfairly. The dragon silently lowered its head, its gaze heavy with thought. It wanted to argue back, but couldn't find the words to object. Looking at the tiny creature writhing in pain in Kim Ojin's hand, it told itself, "Though small, this is still a precious life. I must take responsibility." It thought, its heart as heavy as a stone. Closing its eyes tightly, its front paws clenched, it tried to suppress the surging emotions. Then in a sad voice, it leaned down close to Carlos and whispered, "Carlos, you suffered because of my selfishness. I'm sorry." Kim Ojin looked at the dragon, his gaze gradually softening as if his anger had somewhat subsided. The dragon raised its head, its voice filled with determination. "I will bring fresh fruit right away and return you to where you belong. Your happiness is more important than my desires." It leaned close to Carlos, its voice filled with regret like a sacred vow. Witnessing this scene, Kim Ojin couldn't help but think, this hell seems more humane than I thought. The white dragon turned to him, its voice polite. "Thank you, Healing Spirit, for helping me come to my senses. As promised, I will reward you. What is your wish?" Kim Ojin didn't miss the opportunity and replied immediately, "Then in my next life, let me be reborn as an Arabian oil prince or the heir to a super-rich billionaire." "That would be great." The dragon was bewildered. "What is that? Is that the language of the spirit world?" It shook its head and then raised a claw on which was a brilliantly glowing necklace. "I will give you a magical item containing my divine power. With it, you can create anything you want. But if used for evil purposes, it will be ineffective. I trust you won't do that. It smiled, its voice gentle. Thank you for today. Get home safely. The circle beneath Kim Ojin's feet glowed brightly again. He looked at the dragon in confusion. Wait if I wish to be revived. He shouted, but the light had already enveloped his body, fading away. Send me back to the early days of Bitcoin. With a pop, he vanished, leaving only a sparkling speck of light in front of the dragon. The dragon happily turned to Carlos. Now let's go find some fruit. But in a small corner of the world, a light flashed, and Kim Ojin appeared, his hands on the ground, his teeth clenched. Regret surged through him. Damn it, I missed my chance to change my life. He looked at the necklace in his hand and muttered, a dragon's divine power. What can I even do with this? Then he clicked his tongue, his voice full of dissatisfaction. What a scam of a dragon! Suddenly a man's voice boomed like thunder, shattering the chaotic atmosphere. Hey, you! Kim Ojin looked up. His bewildered gaze met a burly man carrying 2 large crates walking aggressively. Are you blocking the whole alley? He yelled, shoving Kim Ojin hard and knocking him to the ground. In sharp pain, he looked around in a daze. Before him was a bustling market with people in ancient-style clothing busily buying and selling. The noise was like crashing waves. Someone ran past, bumping hard into his shoulder and startling him. His heart pounded. Did someone really just bump into me? Am I reborn or have I possessed someone's body? He thought to himself, his mind spinning as if caught in a whirlwind. A salesgirl standing behind a vibrant fruit stall waved and called out to him, Hey, handsome, buy some fruit, it's as sweet as honey. Kim Ojin, still bewildered, asked, Where is this? The girl looked at him with surprise and curiosity. Are you lost? Your clothes are strange. Are you a traveler? This is Sector B of Baron Dali's southern territory. She continued cheerfully. There aren't many scenic spots, but the inns and shops here are great, so travelers often stop by. The girl looked at him. I bet you're from a remote town, right? Suddenly, a loud noise erupted as if the sky were falling. A fruit stand collapsed, and a giant rabbit as big as an elephant was munching on a basket of carrots, its eyes glowing red. Kim Elizabeth classification, giant lop rabbit, 16 months old. Eats a lot when stressed. Kim Ojin analyzed it automatically. His hunter's instinct flared up like a blazing fire. The people panicked and scattered their screams echoing throughout the market. He turned to the girl and asked doubtfully, Is it normal for monsters to roam around in this world? The girl, covering her head with a scarf, replied hastily, That's Lord B.O. Mo's pet rabbit. Then she ran off, muttering, Today's sales are ruined. But before Kim Ojin could understand, he turned back to look at the giant rabbit. But then he spotted the little girl sobbing uncontrollably, frozen before the beast's sharp teeth. Wah, mommy? The little girl trembled, her voice cracking with fear. The rabbit opened its mouth, its teeth gleaming menacingly. Kim Ojin lunged forward, his heart pounding like a drum, and grabbed the little girl, diving to the side. They both hit the ground hard, but he still asked in a worried voice, Are you okay? Before he could feel relieved about saving her, the rabbit attacked again, its massive body blocking out the light. Kim Ojin thought in panic, We're both going to die. Why did I get involved? But in that very moment, the necklace in his hand erupted in a brilliant light, radiating a powerful energy like a divine flame. A stream of light enveloped the rabbit, forming an invisible collar and leash that bound it tightly. Kim Ojin held the leash, stunned. Did I just tame an elephant-sized rabbit? The little girl beside him stared with wide-eyed amazement. The surrounding people whispered, Is he a sorcerer? He subdued the rabbit in a single move. A girl holding her younger sibling exclaimed, Sister, he's a sorcerer. But Kim Ojin, still bewildered, muttered, What is this situation? Suddenly a chubby man in splendid clothes ran up out of breath. Elizabeth, there you are. Father was so worried. He turned and yelled at his servants, The 3 of you couldn't catch one rabbit. Prepare to be punished. Then he softened his voice and petted the rabbit. We want to go for a walk with Daddy. But when he saw the invisible leash on Elizabeth, he roared, Who dares to tie up my precious baby? Kim Ojin calmly replied, I apologize for tying it up, but it almost killed someone. The man wouldn't listen and shouted, My precious baby wouldn't do that. Take the leash off right now. Kim Ojin couldn't hold back his voice, turning ice cold. If you're so confident, why don't you try putting your head in its mouth? The man was stunned into silence, unable to utter a word. On Kim Ojin's list of hated pet owner types, number 4 was those who always say, My pet would never do that. He exploded, his voice filled with indignation. Do you have any idea how strong a rabbit's bite is? It could crush your head like a boiled potato. He pointed. If you love it so much and can handle it, then go ahead and hug it. The surrounding people, especially the 2 sisters, were excited, keep scolding him. Despite his anger, Kim Ojin tried to remain calm, observing Elizabeth with a professional eye. He noticed the wound on its paw and his voice lowered. This is a lop-eared rabbit. Domesticated rabbits shouldn't be walked in crowded places. They are territorial and get stressed easily. He asked if it had been pulling out its fur or showing any other unusual behavior. The man hesitated. Well, it has been pulling out a lot of fur lately. Kim Ojin nodded. That's a sign of stress. If this continues, it could get seriously ill or even die prematurely. The man was horrified. Elizabeth, die! Kim Ojin, despite his dislike for the man, still advised him in a serious tone. Stop taking it for walks. Rabbits are very sensitive. The man asked, but how will it get exercise? Kim Ojin said bluntly, at home is better than here. And why is it this big? He continued enthusiastically, love alone isn't enough. You have to raise them properly with understanding and care. The man's voice softened, moved. You truly love rabbits. Everyone always makes fun of me saying that only noble ladies raise rabbits. Kim Ojin was surprised. Noble ladies raise things this big. His eyes lit up as he asked, do you work with rabbits? Kim Ojin nodded something like that. The man clapped his hands and ordered his butler to bring something. A bag of money was brought over. Please take this. I hope you will check on Elizabeth's health from time to time. He ran over to hug the rabbit, whispering, Daddy's sorry, Elizabeth. Let's go home, eat well, and rest. Kim Ojin held the bag, breaking out in a cold sweat and muttering, I don't plan on staying here long. The people rushed forward, cheering, Amazing sorcerer! You stood up to the Lord! The salesgirl gave a radiant smile, her eyes sparkling like sunlight through the trees. Thanks to you, we can do business in peace. Is there anything you want? I'll give you a discount. Kim Ojin scratched his head awkwardly, his voice a bit hesitant. I just arrived, I don't have any money. The people around him pointed at the cloth bag in his hand and laughed loudly. The Lord just gave you a whole pile of gold coins. Kim Ojin opened the bag, his eyes shining as if he had found a treasure. He bit one of the coins and then exclaimed, Is this real gold? A poor girl standing nearby said in an admiring tone, Those are gold coins, they're valuable in any world. Kim Ojin was in a daze, his heart pounding like a drum, his mind reeling with grand ideas. If I take this amount home, how many buildings could I build? He thought, his excitement blazing like a fire. A startup idea flashed in his mind, and he excitedly told himself, that's it. I'll open a second branch here, the Kim Ojin Veterinary Clinic Otherworld branch. With this money, he could pay off the old clinic's debt and open a new, more splendid facility than ever before. In the warm room, the flickering light from the candles danced on the ancient stone walls, creating an atmosphere that was both mysterious and solemn. A group of people entered, their heads covered by cloaks, their faces hidden behind thin fabric like silent ghosts. Kim Ojin bowed his head in greeting, his deep voice tinged with fatigue but full of gratitude. Thank you all for making the long journey here. He glanced around, realizing that everyone who needed to be there had gathered with not a single person missing. The guests removed their cloaks, their eyes sparkling with curiosity and anticipation, fixed on him as if awaiting a miracle. Kim Ojin stood straight, his eyes gleaming with a cold sharpness like a general before a battle. I hope one of you will be chosen, he said, his low but authoritative voice echoing in the silent room. In a corner of the room, a man and a woman observed discreetly, their gazes cautious yet attentive. Now let's begin, he declared, lowering his face. The shadows obscured part of his face, creating a dangerously mysterious look. With a slight smirk, he muttered, a game of life and death. This was the staff interview for the Kim Ojin Veterinary Clinic, an unforgiving challenge. He recalled the previous day, his heart still giddy as he remembered the chubby nobleman with a generous smile. Patting his shoulder, the man asked, Planning to open a clinic, need anything? A house, money, or land? Thanks to the man's generosity, the opening of the Kim Ojin Veterinary Clinic's second branch went smoother than expected. The man even gave him a large house, causing a stunned Kim Ojin to silently exclaim, just as I thought. Connections are the most important thing in life. He laughed loudly, his heart overflowing with emotion. I think I love that man. Still, the decor in the shop made him grimace slightly, muttering, This place is full of stuff for rabbits. He swept and dusted, but then shrugged, telling himself, Who cares? It was free after all. After getting the shop, Kim Ojin started to dream big, his eyes sparkling with ambition. Now I have to expand the business, he said, but he was still worried. I don't know much about this world, especially about dragons. I have to find him to get back home. He thought bitterly. He promised to take me home, yet he threw me into this godforsaken place. Afterward, Kim Ojin posted a recruitment notice on the wall. The careful handwriting read, Kim Veterinary Clinic is hiring. Requirements, knowledge of animal treatment, good health, and a friendly demeanor with customers. Salary to be negotiated. He needed a multitasker who could work as a technician and also help him learn about this strange new world. The interviews for the Kim Ojin Veterinary Clinic officially began. Surprisingly, people still showed up to apply. He sat up straight, his voice calm. "All right, let's start from the right. Please introduce yourself." A man with short hair wearing a blue shirt stood up looking nervous. His voice trembled slightly. "I am Thomas, the second son in a family with 3 boys and 2 girls. My father is strict and my mother is gentle, so I've developed an upright character and a good physique." Kim Ojin glanced at him disapprovingly, thinking, no personality too traditional doesn't stand out. He made a mental note as disappointment began to set in. "Yes, next." The next person was more confident, standing up with a radiant smile. "Hello, I'm Philip, the second candidate," he said enthusiastically. "My family has a tradition of working with animals." Kim Ojin's eyes immediately lit up, his heart fluttering slightly. "Oh, what is it specifically?" he asked, his voice full of interest. Philip pulled out a large knife, his eyes sparkling with hope. "A butcher shop. I've handled many animals since I was a child. No one around here is as skilled with a knife as I am." Hearing this, Kim Ojin's mouth twitched, and he immediately wrote on the evaluation form, warning potential pet killer. The first 22 candidates passed, and none were suitable. Kim Ojin was discouraged, telling himself he needed to be more careful when hiring. He raised his voice. "Number 3, introduce yourself." The third person stepped forward, his hair disheveled, his eyes dark-ringed as if he hadn't slept for 3 days. A chill ran down Kim Ojin's spine as he looked at him immediately, thinking the guy looked like he had killed a dozen people. But then he reminded himself not to judge by appearances. He asked politely, "You look very tense. Why do you want to work here?" The man suddenly became agitated and shouted, "You're the famous sorcerer, aren't you? I've been desperately searching for someone like you. Please use me as your doormat." Kim Ojin was stunned, his heart sinking into an abyss. He thought beads of sweat forming on his forehead. This guy is getting weirder and weirder. The man moved closer, muttering like a madman. "Magic! Magic!" Kim Ojin shouted in panic. "Don't come near me!" I said, "Stay back." Suddenly the situation descended into chaos. Kim Ojin nearly lost control, his mind spinning as if caught in a storm. Suddenly, a calm voice from a corner of the room cut through the chaos. "Doctor, when is it my turn?" Kim Ojin, struggling with the strange man, turned pale and said with a trembling voice, "Is now really the time to ask that?" "You help me!" The girl stood up without hesitation, her eyes as sharp and cold as ice. "Shall I help you clean up, then?" she said, her voice as cold as a sharp blade cutting through the air. Kim Ojin was dumbfounded, his heart pounding. "Huh! What did you say?" Before he could understand, she threw a lightning-fast, powerful, and precise punch that landed squarely on the pervert's face. He collapsed, limbs flailing, his mouth twisted like a puppet with its strings cut. Kim Ojin was stunned, his eyes wide with astonishment, unable to believe what he had just witnessed. The girl, beautiful and radiant as the morning sun, stepped forward. Her voice calm yet commanding, she said, "My name is Selena. I am an expert on animals and know some basic treatment methods. In short, I have experience." Kim Ojin nearly fell over backward, his heart bursting with hope, his eyes sparkling with admiration. "This is more than enough for this world," he thought immediately, giving her a mental score of 100. "You're hired," he declared, his voice filled with the conviction of someone who had just found a precious gem in the desert. And so the Kim Ojin Veterinary Clinic had found its first technician. On a beautiful day in town, warm sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the new office as if bringing a blessing from the heavens. Kim Ojin sat there full of anticipation, but his assistant Selena did not appear. His mood plummeted, and he muttered bitterly, "Son of a bitch, really?" He sighed and told himself, "I was a bit hasty in hiring her yesterday. Where am I supposed to post another job ad now?" Suddenly a knock on the door startled him, and a glimmer of hope sparked like an unexpected ray of sunshine. He rushed to open the door, greeting with a bright smile. "Have you eaten yet?" But in front of him was a radiant-looking young man who scratched his head shyly. Not yet." "Should I have eaten first?" a disappointed Kim Ojin asked. "Who are you?" The young man beamed as if he had struck gold. "I'm a customer." Kim Ojin immediately switched to a polite demeanor, inviting him in. "Please come in," he said warmly. "Would you like some water or tea?" The young man said cheerfully, "Tea," as if all his worries had vanished. Kim Ojin eagerly went to pour the tea, his heart singing, "The first customer of the second branch. The first step to paying off my debt." His eyes hardened with resolve as he told himself, "I will succeed this time. I've learned from my experience with the first branch." Recalling the first branch, Kim Ojin couldn't help but sigh. Once he was treating a dog whose injury had healed, but tartar was starting to build up. He advised the owner to brush its teeth regularly. The owner grumbled, brushing its teeth is such a hassle. But back then, Kim Ojin couldn't hold back and unleashed a tirade, a hassle. Then just let the tartar build up, let its mouth stink, let all its teeth fall out, and let it live miserably. If it's a hassle, why don't you stop eating, stop breathing too? That's a hassle as well. Or just let it die, it'll be more convenient in the next life. The owner, feeling pressured, mumbled, "I'll do it." Kim Ojin recalled, shaking his head. "Back then, I couldn't control my attitude and lost customers. This time I'll be kind and empty their wallets." He smiled slyly and turned to the customer. "So which patient did you bring?" The customer pointed to his breast pocket. "Here, Bojack. A cute salamander, right?" Kim Ojin looked at the small, bright red salamander and thought to himself, "After that giant rabbit, I thought all the animals here were monstrous. Thank goodness it's probably just a normal salamander." He maintained a professional smile. "Is it in your pocket because it chewed through its cage?" The customer laughed innocently. "No, it's cuter this way." "Super cute." Kim Ojin almost slammed the table, but the thought of his debt ringing in his head urged him to hold back. He spoke with a trembling voice. "Look here. Why did you bring Bojack in?" "Is he sick?" the customer asked worriedly. "Not exactly sick, but he's very weak. He's sensitive to the cold wind." Kim Ojin was weary. "That's a natural characteristic of salamanders." The customer continued, his voice urgent. "Yesterday I grabbed his tail and it broke off." Kim Ojin clenched his fists, trying not to explode. "That's also normal for salamanders. Don't grab his tail," he warned. The customer didn't care. "Anyway, just make him healthier, okay?" Kim Ojin thought bitterly. Asterisk. The pet isn't the problem, the owner is. "He looks just like a white dragon," he said gently. "Hand him over so I can examine him." Holding Bojack, he gently pressed its belly and felt something unusual. Huh. His eyes widened. Bojack was having trouble shedding. The customer scratched his head. "What's shedding?" Kim Ojin warned. "Hey, be careful when you touch him." Suddenly, Bojack became a bit aggressive. "He's a street tough." Suddenly, Bojack's cheeks puffed out and its body began to tremble. Kim Ojin was bewildered. "What's wrong?" Its mouth swelled up as if it contained something dangerous. Kim Ojin's eyes bulged. "What's happening?" Bojack opened its mouth and spat out a small fireball. Selena, the new employee, suddenly appeared. Quick as a flash, she pulled Kim Ojin aside. He was thrown slamming painfully into the wall. "The fireball luckily missed everyone," Selena said coolly. "You were almost incinerated by a fire salamander. It's only my first day and I nearly lost my boss." Kim Ojin whispered in pain, "Being incinerated would have been better than this." He regained his composure, his voice patient. "Bojack, a fire salamander, age unknown, spits fire when threatened. We can't examine him barehanded." The customer, captivated by Selena's cool demeanor, exclaimed, "Wow, you're so beautiful." Kim Ojin, getting a headache, asked, "Do we have any fireproof armor?" Selena turned to the customer, her voice cold. "Where did you get this fire salamander?" The customer replied cheerfully, "I found him on the mountain out there. It was love at first sight, so I brought him home." The customer hugged Bojack tightly, his eyes bewildered, and turned to Selena, asking with a trembling voice, "Gentha?" Selena, as calm as a still lake, replied, "No. But capturing a fire salamander is illegal. They are too wild to be kept as pets, and their population is declining due to illegal poaching." The customer's face paled, his voice cracking, "I can't keep him." Selena reassured him, her gaze gentle yet firm. "Don't worry. If we say we're keeping him for treatment, they'll look the other way. But you have to release him after his treatment is finished." Kim Ojin was in tears. The customer hugged Bojack tightly, his voice choked with emotion. "You want me to part with Bojack?" "No way!" He bolted, shouting in despair. "Let us love each other." Kim Ojin had just peeled himself off the wall from the incident. Watching his money run away, his whole body trembled with anger. He growled, his eyes darkening. "What's wrong with that guy?" Selena said calmly, "I guess they decided to go home." Kim Ojin's face turned purple as he pointed to the door, his voice as dark as night. "We haven't treated anything yet." "Where does he think he's going? Are you just going to stand there and watch?" Selena bowed her head, her voice timid. "All right, I'll go catch him." Kim Ojin panted, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. Would Kim Ojin's clinic's first treatment be a success? He wondered, his heart heavy. Outside on the bustling street, people hurried by. The fruit vendor girl hummed happily, her voice as clear as a bird's song. "The Lord's rabbit isn't around, so life has gotten much better." She thought happy that Elizabeth was no longer causing trouble. As long as she's busy playing with the Lord, the stalls won't be wrecked anymore. Life is truly beautiful. Just as she stood up, she saw a man sprinting past. It was the first customer. Following him were Selena and Kim Ojin. The three of them rushed by at a terrifying speed. The clinic's first customer, his face pale with fear, clutched Bojack tightly. The two of them sped past the fruit stand, sending fruit rolling everywhere. Kim Ojin, exhausted, dragged himself after them, panting, "Please stop." The vendor girl recognized the familiar figures and her expression changed. Sitting in her stall, she watched them go, thinking, asterisk, I don't know what's happening, but I'd better not get involved. It's terrifying. The customer, heartbroken and running with all his might, wondered, asterisk, why asterisk? Asterisk, why are they chasing me? They're trying to take my Bojack away. Despite the mental strain, he shouted as he ran, Don't worry, Bojack, this is just a trial for us. Kim Ojin, struggling behind, yelled something that could easily be misunderstood. No, he needs to shed his scales. Quick stop. Said like that, there was no way the customer would ever stop. By noon, the sun was high, and an exhausted Kim Ojin leaned against a wall, panting, That guy's too fast, he got away. Selena turned back her tone, critical. You need to exercise more. Then she asked curiously, By the way, Ojin, that fire salamander, has it really not shed yet? Kim Ojin replied wearily, Yes, and what's more, there are already 2 to 3 layers of scales built up, so they need to be removed quickly. This was clearly important information. With her deep love for animals, Selena frowned, her eyes determined. Then we definitely need to hurry. Kim Ojin asked, puzzled, What do you mean? Selena explained in a serious tone, If a fire salamander can't shed fire, builds up inside its body. And when the amount of fire reaches an unbearable level, it will go on a terrifying rampage. She continued, A rampaging fire salamander is extremely dangerous. It could level this entire area, not just affect its owner. Kim Ojin's hair stood on end, his mind reeling. Pets here are different from my world. He took a deep breath. He must be somewhere around here. Let's pick up the pace. He managed to shake off Kim Ojin and Selena. The customer found a new hiding spot. He opened the door, looked around, and sighed in relief. All right, they probably didn't follow me here. Placing Bojack on the table, he beamed, his eyes sparkling with happiness. We're safe now. See, Bojack, no one can tear us apart. With that settled, he quickly pulled out a notebook. Oh, I must turn this memory into a song. Oh, where's the paper? He said frantically. My inspiration has struck. This will surely be a masterpiece for the ages. Let's praise this love of the century through song. Unbeknownst to him, Bojack was puffing out wisps of fire, its body glowing red. The customer lost in his melody, la 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 la. Oh, the power of love. Meanwhile, Bojack grew redder, the signs of instability becoming more intense. He sang loudly, Because I love you. But the salamander was now unstable, its eyes wide and vacant, devoid of emotion. He turned back cheerfully and asked, Haha, what do you think? Suddenly he was standing in a room that had become a sea of flames. He stood stunned, his eyes bewildered, not understanding what was happening. What in the world is going on? He exclaimed, his heart pounding as the flames flared, illuminating the salamander's silhouette amidst the thick smoke. Buddy Jack, what's wrong? Did you do this? The customer, far from blaming him, asked gently, his voice full of concern, Are you angry about something? But even so, how could you suddenly shoot fire like this? He reached out to touch Jack, filled with worry. He said urgently, It's dangerous, let's get out of here. But Bojack saw his hand as a threat and puffed out more fire, its body glowing red. Seeing the dangerous sign, the customer tried to stop him. Hey, stop! But now Bojack opened its mouth wide and a brilliant energy radiated from it. The dazzling light illuminated his shocked face. Asterisk, no, he wouldn't spit fire at me, asterisk, he thought. But a giant fireball was already gathering in the salamander's mouth. The terrifying energy made the air tremble. He still tried to believe, we're family. Suddenly, Selena rushed in, grabbing the customer and pulling him out of harm's way. He still reached for Bojack, his voice cracking. Without hesitation, Kim Ojin rushed forward and carefully grabbed the salamander. Held tightly, Bojack couldn't resist, but the heat from its small body forced Kim Ojin to endure the pain. He turned to Selena and asked innocently, Miss Selena, does going on a rampage mean attacking people? Fire was now spreading throughout the room, filling it with thick smoke. Selena, still holding the customer tightly, replied, It seems he has completely lost consciousness. If we leave him like this, he'll spit out an even bigger flame. Hurry and calm him down, Selena urged Kim Ojin. Facing a deadly threat, he wondered, stay calm in this situation? But before he could think further, Bojack spewed a violent, swirling torrent of fire like a hurricane. The necklace that the white dragon had given him suddenly glowed brightly. I need something to put out the fire, he thought, and instantly the necklace transformed into a fire extinguisher. Kim Ojin's eyes widened and his mouth dropped open in astonishment. Huh? Without hesitation, he sprayed the foam directly at Bojack. White foam covered Bojack's face, making it look like it was snowing. Its innocent eyes looked at him reproachfully. In response to that gaze, Kim Ojin kept spraying as if to vent all his frustration. When he was done, he looked at the extinguisher the necklace had summoned and silently acknowledged, This necklace is quite useful, isn't it? Although the fire was out, a few scorch marks still smoldered in the corners of the house. The client and Selena witnessed the scene in astonishment. Selena said in a calm voice. Somehow it's calmed down. She turned to the client. Are you okay? The client, who hadn't yet regained his composure, mumbled, gone berserk. Then he sat up, heaved a sigh of relief, his eyes lighting up as he realized the reason. That's right. If it weren't for that, Pojak would have never attacked. This is what happens when he can't shed his scales. That's right. I'm so glad I've realized it now. Now I can take better care of him. Hearing these words, Kim Ojin turned to the client with a look full of disbelief. Is he for real? He asked bluntly, his voice annoyed. After all that's happened, is that all you have to say? Despite being attacked by his pet, the client's love for Pojak remained unshaken. Oh, don't worry, my feelings for Pojak haven't changed. We can rebuild the house, and even if it burns down again, I'll be fine. Kim Ojin couldn't take it anymore and exploded. If this continues, the neighbors' houses will burn down too, and someone could get hurt. The client looked guilty and mumbled, That's why from now on, I'll definitely take care of him. Kim Ojin screamed internally, Does that even matter now? Furious, his face darkened and he clutched his head, trying to control his emotions. Gently lifting Pojak in his hands, he spoke to the client in a sincere tone. You really shouldn't keep a wild animal impulsively like this. They need their own environment to live in. But with his love for animals and professionalism, he continued, Moreover, bringing it home just because you found it cute without understanding anything about its characteristics is that what you call love. His words were sharp as a knife, making Selena look at him differently with a hint of respect. If it goes berserk again, are you confident you can control it by yourself? He asked in a low but sharp voice. The client lowered his head, his sad eyes looking away. Pojak in Kim Ojin's hands looked at its owner with wide, round eyes. Kim Ojin concluded in a firm voice, a life cannot be sustained by love alone. Kim Ojin gently bent down to look at Pojak, his eyes gentle yet filled with concern. The little salamander unconsciously looked up its clear eyes, meeting his as if they were sharing a quiet moment amidst a storm of emotions. The space fell into a heavy silence with only the sound of the wind gently blowing through. The client sat motionless, his face sad, his eyes heavy as if carrying a gloomy sky. A moment later, the scene shifted to a lush green forest where sunlight filtered through the canopy, casting shimmering patches of light on the ground. Kim Ojin observed Pojak saying gently after the shedding, It looks much healthier now. Selena gazed admiringly at the salamander and exclaimed, Yeah, its scales look great too. However, it's grown quite a bit, hasn't it? The salamander's form changed rapidly after shedding. Both interested and curious, Kim Ojin watched the creature intently wondering how such a large body could fit inside the old skin. Selena watched calmly and said, This is nature's secret. But the saddest person was still Pojak's owner. He sat, slumped his hands on the ground, his shoulders trembling with emotion. Pojak, you've grown up now. You probably don't need my help anymore. With tears welling in his eyes, he looked at the salamander, his voice choked with emotion. That's right, you should return to the vast wilderness. That's where you truly belong. As if caught in a tragic Korean drama, he continued, Pojak, you must be happy. I'm letting you go because I love you. Even without me, you have to eat well and sleep soundly, but please think of me sometimes. I'll come by every day and leave food for you. The tearful words gave Kim Ojin goosebumps. He had to cover both ears, muttering, No, don't do that, it will make it lose its instincts. As soon as Pojak was released, it dashed off like the wind, disappearing deep into the forest. The client was still sitting there sobbing, seemingly lost in his own one-sided affection. We had always been together, but the salamander was just waiting for a chance to bolt. The client, crestfallen and stunned by Pojak's decisiveness, fell into deep despair. How could you leave without a single word of goodbye? He screamed, his voice cracking. Selena said, gently trying to comfort him, Cheer up. Fire salamanders don't usually have a concept of an owner. Then she was as blunt as a splash of cold water. It probably saw you as a slave who just fed it. The client wailed, Yeah, and you call that comforting. Selena patiently sat nearby, her voice gentle. Just think of it as getting rid of a jerk who treated you like a slave. No one noticed. On a high rock, Pojak opened its mouth wide, gathering a fireball larger than before. A brilliant light shone. The sound made all three of them look up. The client, with tears and snot running down his face, exclaimed, Ah! What is that? In the sky, fireworks exploded as brilliant as 1,000 stars. The breathtakingly beautiful sight moved the client, who was both laughing and crying. As expected of my Pojak, you're so amazing. Kim Ojin and Selena also looked up stunned by the beauty. So as the first patient, the fire salamander's treatment was complete. Kim Ojin thought relieved. The scene shifted back to the bustling town where people were engrossed in the melody of a young man playing an instrument. That was Rosa, a mage and poet who had once defeated the Lord's rabbit and inspired poetic fervor. In the square, Rosa performed with a choir that shone like starlight, his resonant voice ringing out. He loves animals like a spirit from a fairy tale. That's right. His soothing touch is like a mother's embrace, a walking panacea, like an elixir, like an intoxicant. The performance also featured the artist Jembo with a bubble on his head skillfully playing the drums. Selena and Kim Ojin stood on the sidelines blending in with the crowd. Selena said, "I hear he's a rather famous poet." Kim Ojin, full of regret, mumbled, "You're saying that guy is a poet." Standing in the crowd, he blurted out, "What can he do with such a messy song?" Two nearby girls blushed and whispered, "This new song is amazing. Who is the mage in the song? I wonder if my pet gets sick, I'll definitely go to him." Kim Ojin, with his money-hungry eyes, was captivated by the praise the genius artist Rosa. "This is what you call real music. This is the first time I've been so moved by music." A few days later, the song advertising Kim Ojin's veterinary clinic spread, causing people to rush over, banging on the door and pushing each other. "Doctor, please treat my child. Doctor, doctor." Kim Ojin and Selena sat inside, but no one went to open the door, their minds troubled by the chaos. Selena looked outside, her gaze sweeping over the noisy crowd, and whispered, "So the vet clinic has experienced an unexpected boom." Even the birds flying past the house felt deafening to him. In front of the door, people formed a long line, eagerly waiting for Kim Ojin to open. His face was haggard, as if he had just come back from the dead, with dark circles under his eyes from exhaustion. "The little one's examination is complete," he said in a weak voice. "Please come back next week so I can check on the progress." Selena, noticing his unstable condition, spoke up, "I think you'll turn into a corpse before then." But for Kim Ojin, money was always the ultimate motivation. No matter how tired he was, he still tried to seize the opportunity to make money. Selena warned in a serious tone, In that case, I have to make a living while I can." Kim Ojin ignored her, his voice dry. Next patient. 2 months after arriving in this world, thanks to Rosa's song, the second clinic exploded in popularity. Customers flocked in, willing to wait for him to examine their pets. All their efforts had paid off. Kim Ojin and Selena stood before the pile of money they had earned, their eyes sparkling. "This is our income for today," he declared, his voice tinged with pride. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Excuse me, are you still open?" Selena replied, "We're closed." But Kim Ojin, who had lost money on customers in the early days, now changed his attitude and put on a professional smile. "Yes, please come in." Money really does solve everything. As he treated the patients, he gradually learned more about this strange world. 2 clients waiting for their pets to be seen were chatting animatedly. "Wow, it's great to see you. What brings you here today?" One of them replied, "She's been a bit off her food lately." They laughed. Even here, dogs and cats were humanity's best friends. These people were knowledgeable and loved their pets. "It needs to be at least 50 centimeters longer," one person said. The other nodded. "The eye on my cat's back is red." It was just that the species here were a little different. Kim Ojin was working at full capacity. Tired, he stretched, rubbed his neck, and slumped into his chair, muttering, "I'm so exhausted." Selena, working just as hard, reminded him next up is the last one. Hearing that he was almost done, he perked up. "That's great. What kind of animal is it?" Selena replied, "It's a Chu-Q. They used to be hunting dogs, but recently they've become quite popular as pets. However, because they're quite aggressive with everyone except their owner, the abandonment rate is also said to be very high." Kim Ojin looked up, his smile fading as he whispered, "I wish people who get pets just for a trend would end up the same way." Selena continued seriously, "I heard that when they grow up, they can be as tall as a person's upper body. Their claws and teeth are sharp enough to tear through the hide of a wild boar. You'd better be careful." The warning sent a shiver down his spine as he thought to himself, "That sounds like an extremely ferocious dog breed." A moment later, a client walked in. The dog, described as ferocious, came out like a small ball of fluff. "Go, go, go, go!" a cheerful bark rang out. A 2-month-old puppy, completely loyal. Selena spoke up. "I heard it's only 3 months old." The owner quickly said, "I forgot to mention this. He's been limping since yesterday. Doctor, do you think he's injured somewhere?" Kim Ojin, still bewildered, carefully lifted the small puppy. "Let me see." After a brief examination, he thought the joints of a 3-month-old animal should be stable by now. Holding the tiny paw, he discovered a small thorn stuck in it. The puppy's leg trembled in pain. With a swift movement, he used tweezers to pull the thorn out. There was a thorn in his paw. "He should be fine now. Let me just bandage it up a bit." The puppy yelped after being treated, then brightened up like a blooming flower, rolling around and barking joyfully. Kim Ojin watched it, thinking to himself, "It looks like a ball of yarn." Its cuteness made him smile, and his mood lightened. Selena, standing above, noticed the change. "You look very happy." Kim Ojin slumped over the table, looked up. Huh. Selena continued. Do you find that little puppy very cute? Or is it because the last job is finally over? Still in his tired posture, he asked, Why are you so curious about that? Selena smiled and said, Really? It's strange to see you happy for reasons other than money. Kim Ojin clicked his tongue, his tired eyes glancing at Selena. You really leave me speechless. He turned to look at the crowd of people outside, his heart heavy. It's just that no patients were seriously injured today. He mumbled, his voice low and sad. But as a veterinarian, the hardest part is constantly seeing sick animals. The more I care for them, the more it hurts, so I have to suppress my emotions and be more rational. Remembering the time a client came to pick up Min Mong Kim Ojin, couldn't keep his cool, and said bluntly to the owner, so you're the owner who abandoned their sick pet for a month to go on vacation. Hello, you must have had a lot of fun, right? From then on, he began to be harsh with people who were irresponsible with their pets. The memory made him feel down. He stared for a moment, then stood up with a sigh. Sigh, all right. We're about to close, so let's start cleaning up. Then Selena noticed the sky had turned the color of sunset, the orange-yellow light fading. Kim Ojin tiredly dragged himself to the window, turned back, and replied, Anyway, we had a lot of customers today. If you want to leave early, hurry up and give me a hand. But just as he finished speaking, a man with a bowed head appeared outside the window. His face looked like a ghost in the twilight, making his heart clench. Mr. Kim Ojin, please save me, the man cried out, his voice desperate. Selena held a broom at the ready, her eyes wary. Kim Ojin's voice was light but tinged with humor. Miss Selena, do you know how to perform an exorcism? The man didn't wait for an invitation, opening the window himself and rushing in. Mr. Kim Ojin, startled as if he had encountered a zombie, he screamed. Ah! Ha! It broke in. Suddenly, the man grabbed him and pulled him outside, dragging him away from the clinic. Selena stood inside, stunned, watching her boss being dragged away, unable to react in time. As darkness fell, the man pulled Kim Ojin into a forest where the shadows of the trees obscured the crescent moon. He knelt before him, who was exhausted after more than 10 hours of work. Oh, my Mr. Kim Ojin, I'm sorry, I'm so very sorry. I didn't think you were so weak. You couldn't even cross this hill. Kim Ojin lay face down, struggling to get the words out. Shut up. This exhausted body needs rest urgently. He forced himself to stand up, his voice annoyed. No, but who are you? You don't look like the ghost at all. As if suddenly remembering, the man pointed to himself and introduced himself politely. I forgot to introduce myself. I am Swy, the Grand Steward of this territory. There's a reason I brought you here. He prostrated himself on the ground, his voice urgent. Mr. Kim Ojin, I heard you helped calm the Lord's rabbit. So could you please help me catch a stray dog? The request left Kim Ojin bewildered. Selena, who had caught up at some point, explained from behind, We're not an animal rescue society? Kim Ojin nodded. That's right, I'm a veterinarian. Not an animal catcher. But Swy remained persistent. You are our only hope because we really don't have much time left. Kim Ojin glanced at Selena, wondering when she had gotten there. Selena listened curiously as Swy continued, his voice heavy. 2 months ago, that thing took up residence in the middle of the mountain. Swy's face was filled with sorrow. Unfortunately, that is right where our cable line passes through. We tried to catch it, but the creature is too fast, and now construction is set to begin the day after tomorrow. Kim Ojin asked uncertainly, And if we can't catch it? Swy looked directly at the two of them and replied, They will send the army. At the point when rescue becomes impossible, it will be killed on the spot. The words made Kim Ojin's veterinarian heart tremble. Swy looked up at the sky, his eyes sparkling with hope. We really don't have any time left. Please. He bowed his head, pleading, Help us. It was an ironic situation that put them both in a difficult position. Kim Ojin pursed his lips, thinking for a long moment before scratching his head. Where is the dog now? He nodded, his voice reluctant. I'm a veterinarian. I've never tried to catch an animal, so I at least need to see the dog first. Yes. In Swy's eyes, Kim Ojin was like a savior, and his eyes glistened with emotion. Yes, it's just a little further from here. But Kim Ojin remained blunt, pushing himself up with his hands. I haven't said I'll take the job yet. I'm just stopping by to check it out. Although he said that Selena understood clearly, her eyes shone with the certainty that he would do it. Afterwards, Swy led Kim Ojin and Selena to another area in the forest. His eyes lit up as he pointed ahead where the moonlight peeked through the leaves. It's always quietly hanging around here. For some reason, it has never left this spot. Suddenly, a sound echoed nearby like the crunch of dry leaves, startling all three of them. Kim Ojin and Selena went on alert, their ears straining to locate the source of the sound. A dog appeared. Its mouth was agape, letting out labored, wheezing breaths as if it were struggling with pain. It stood before them, its shaggy fur obscuring its eyes, looking both ferocious and pitiful. Kim Ojin looked at it, his voice low. "Miss Selena, could this thing be—" Understanding his meaning, Selena replied with a firm voice, "Yes, it's a type of hunting dog." In front of them was a lion dog. The thick fur on its head hung down, nearly covering its eyes. It bared its teeth as if smiling, but it was ready to bite at any moment. Then Selena repeated in a warning tone, "I told you, remember?" Because they're trendy, many people get them, and many also get abandoned. Kim Ojin noticed the old-time worn collar on Utkil's neck. The three of them faced the lion dog as it began to lose control. Its wild eyes looked ready to attack. He thought with sorrow, "He said this dog has been here for 2 months. Looking at its condition, it probably hasn't had a proper meal in a long time." Suddenly, a cry echoed from a distance. Kim Ojin and the others looked up, wondering, "What's that sound? Is it a monster?" Startled, he accidentally stomped hard on the ground. The dog Utkil was provoked, thinking it was being attacked, and growled fiercely before charging. Its fur matted from days of neglect, it pounced on the three of them. Selena reacted in a flash, flying over to grab Kim Ojin and White and pulling them back. "It's dangerous." She held them tightly and ran. Kim Ojin shouted, "Turning your back and running from a fierce dog is the worst thing we can do," Selena asked, bewildered. "Then what should we do? Just wait for it to bite us to death?" He turned his head, staring wide-eyed at the agitated Utkil. "That will just provoke it to chase us." He tried to find a way to distract it, but suddenly Utkil turned to look behind it. The three of them stood frozen, not understanding what it wanted, feeling somewhat relieved. Then Selena put the two of them down, sighing in relief. "Why did it stop? Didn't you say this was a hunting dog?" Selena mumbled, "That's right. It's aggressive and a hunting dog." The strange thing was Utkil didn't attack again. Instead, it turned and ran back to a cave. Kim Ojin exclaimed, "It's gone back to its original spot. This is so unpredictable." Selena sighed. "Yeah, we can't guess what it's thinking." White, still panting, added, "It always chases people like this. That's why many people from the nearby village have been complaining lately." Kim Ojin looked sympathetic. Then an idea struck him and his eyes lit up. He asked, "What kind of complaints?" White replied, "Well, they say there's a dog on the mountain that barks very loudly and sounds dangerous, so they want to catch it." Kim Ojin rubbed his nose thoughtfully and asked, "Has anyone actually been hurt?" White stammered, Of course." But then he looked down, lost in thought. No one has complained about that." Kim Ojin turned to Selena. "Miss Selena, you said that Utkil is very loyal to her owner, right?" She nodded. "Absolutely. She's renowned for her loyalty." Selena asked quietly, full of curiosity, "Have you figured something out?" The sky had grown dark, cast in faint moonlight. The next morning, the three of them went down to the village near the mountain. Selena, tagging along behind them, asked, "Why are we coming here instead of going to the dog's location?" Kim Ojin replied, his focus on his steps. "Our mission now is to find her former owner." Selena was surprised. "Her owner? Shouldn't we be catching her? We don't have much time left. If we just set out some bait and a trap, she'll walk right in, right? She looks so hungry." Kim Ojin glanced at a nearby stall and said calmly, "I bet food isn't enough to lure her." Selena was confused. "What?" he continued. "Otherwise, why would she be so thin and weak? She's a hunting dog. There must be something more important to her than hunger." Selena's eyes filled with sadness as she recalled a memory. A man waved in the forest, "I'll be right back. You be a good girl and stay here to protect this place, okay?" The poor dog left behind still wagged her tail in farewell. The words "absolutely do not leave here" echoed in her head. Selena mumbled, "There are people like that where I'm from too." Kim Ojin couldn't hide his anger, his eyes burning like fire. "Scumbags who order their dogs to stay put just so they can abandon them. When we find that guy, we'll punch him and drag him with us. He needs to see how the dog he abandoned has been living." In the market, a group of women were gossiping animatedly. Kim Ojin went around asking people about Utkil. "We'd like to know who the owner of that stray dog is, too. Gabriel's husband is a woodcutter and he can't chop wood because of that dog." He then asked the village children, but they shook their heads. "I don't know. My mom won't let me play on the mountain anymore because of that dog." Even the village elder didn't know. "A dog? What dog? Oh, you mean that son of a bitch who took my money 10 years ago." Kim Ojin wearily leaned against a wall, his head spinning. "Could her owner not be from this village?" Selena sighed heavily. "One thing is clear, everyone hates that stray dog." Kim Ojin lamented helplessly. "How can not a single person know?" Suddenly a woman with a gentle gaze approached them. "The villagers wouldn't know? You're looking for the owner of that stray dog, aren't you? Then you must first go ask Uncle Jack." Kim Ojin whipped around. "You know her owner." The young woman said softly, "Follow me." The scene shifted to a log cabin hidden deep in the forest. As sunset light filtered through the canopy, Kim Ojin and Selena were drenched in sweat after the long walk. Looking up at the house, he asked in a tired voice, This Uncle Jack lives quite far from the village, huh?" The woman replied, "That's right, which is why the villagers aren't very close to him." They knocked on the door, but there was no answer. Kim Ojin thought to himself, "So this person lived out here alone with that dog." The woman quickly spoke up, "Not there. Over here." Kim Ojin turned and looked in surprise where she was pointing. He was stunned, his eyes wide. "But that's a grave." With sad eyes, the young woman said, "He passed away 2 months ago in a landslide. Even though he lived alone, he was a very warm person." Kim Ojin asked curiously. 2 months ago?" The young woman nodded. "Yes. He had no family, so I helped arrange his funeral." In front of the grave, she said respectfully, "People blame the dog's owner, but sadly he didn't abandon his pet. He just couldn't come back for her." Kim Ojin stood pensively before Jack's grave, finally understanding the sad story. The woman continued, her voice filled with resentment. "I tried to bring the dog home too, but it was no use. If you're here because of that dog, I mean her, could you please help her?" Kim Ojin clenched his fists and bowed his head before the grave, sincerely praying for him to rest in peace. He added, his spirits sinking, "And I'm truly sorry for misunderstanding you." With a determined expression, he declared, "We promise we will rescue your dog no matter what." The sun set, casting a brilliant red glow over the forest. His voice trembling, he said, "Wait." He cowered, his whole body shaking. "Weren't you supposed to arrive tomorrow? You're earlier than I expected." 3 soldiers in neat uniform stood before him. In a cold voice, one said, "Our mission ended early, so we moved up the schedule." White said worriedly, "I see. How about you all rest today and come back tomorrow?" But the lead soldier bluntly drew his gun. "Do we need to drag this out until tomorrow?" But with a cold expression, he continued, "We'll handle it right now. This isn't our first time dealing with wild animals." Looking at Utgil lying sadly at the cave entrance covered in dirt, he added, "Everyone hates that dog anyway. Who's going to complain if we kill it a day early?" Kim Ojin opened the door to Jack's log cabin and stepped inside. The faint scent of herbs filled the air. He thought, was he an herbalist? He said, "We need to get items that carry his scent." Selena noticed some clothes hanging up. "There are some clothes over here." With a heavy heart, Kim Ojin looked at a small photo on the table showing Jack smiling happily beside Utgil. He bit his lip. "Damn it, why is life so unfair?" Standing behind him, Selena pointed to a paper on the wall. "There's a picture of a mandrake over there." Kim Ojin turned in surprise. "Huh? What did you say?" "A mandrake, I think I've seen one in a movie before." Selena then looked at Kim Ojin curiously. "You've never heard of this plant," she explained in a clear voice. "It's very rare and hard to find, but it's extremely valuable. Any apothecary would dream of possessing one." A glint appeared in Kim Ojin's eyes. As if he had just realized something important, he looked at the portrait of Jack and Utgil happy together and mumbled to himself. By now the sky had likely grown completely dark. Utgil lay wearily on the ground looking up at the sky with sad eyes. Suddenly her mood shifted, her eyes brightening as if recalling a fond memory. In the memory, Utgil and Jack were taking shelter in a cave during a torrential downpour. "Whoa, this rain came out of nowhere!" Jack exclaimed, lighting a warm fire. "Let's wait here until the rain stops." Despite the crackling fire, Utgil still shivered from the cold. With a gentle expression, Jack took a towel to dry her fur. "Good thing I brought this just in case. Stay still, you'll catch a cold if you stay this soaked." Happily, it licked Jack's hand to show its sincere affection, then cheerfully snuggled into his lap to play. "Ha ha, you little rascal!" Jack laughed, his smile as warm as a father doting on his child. Looking out at the rain, he said, "But luckily we found a place to take shelter from the rain." Glancing into the cave, he spotted a glowing herb sparkling in the darkness. "Wait a minute, that's a glowing herb!" Utgil drew closer. After carefully observing the color and shape of its leaves, Jack exclaimed, "This is a mandrake." Oh, he rejoiced. "Good heavens, I never thought I'd see one with my own eyes outside of a book." He said hurriedly, "There's no more time to be surprised. I have to hurry home and get my tools." Understanding the situation, Utgil retreated to a corner of the cave to let him work. Jack stood up and said to it, "I'll go by myself, it's okay." He turned back with a bright smile. "I'll be right back, so you wait here, okay?" Utgil nodded and barked woof in reply. Jack left his heart filled with happiness. Today is truly my lucky day. He left Utgil in the cave with the fire, intending to go home and get tools to dig up the precious plant. The rain was pouring down. He walked hastily, his heart anxious. Suddenly a strange sound echoed. Jack turned his head, his eyes wide with astonishment. Then darkness swallowed everything. The heavy rain caused a landslide, burying him along with the plants and soil. In the cave, the fire slowly died down, leaving only a few half-burnt logs. Utkyu still sat there, craning its neck, waiting for Jack. It didn't take its eyes off the entrance, just waiting for him to return. A rainbow appeared in the sky. Utkyu let out a loud cry, but continued to wait patiently. Day after day, it waited in front of the cave entrance. Villagers passing by wondered, "What's that dog doing here? I saw it last week and it's still here." Seeing Utkyu dirty and gaunt, they speculated, looking like this, it must have been abandoned, right? Two men felt pity, poor thing. "How about we give it something to eat?" But as they approached, Utkyu became aggressive, growling and scaring them away. "What the heck? Why is it suddenly so aggressive?" "Forget it! It's too dangerous! Let's get out of here quickly!" they muttered as they turned away. No wonder its owner abandoned it." Day after day, month after month, Utkyu didn't let anyone near it or the cave. When the danger was gone, it would return to the cave and then come back to the entrance, its gaze fixed on the distance, waiting for Jack. From morning to night, it ate nothing, only waiting. Now a group of soldiers and Squid appeared. Squid kept making excuses. "There's no need to rush like this. It's getting dark, how about we head back to the barracks?" But the soldiers paid no attention, quickly approaching Utkyu. It went into guard mode, baring its teeth in a fierce display. They checked, "Did you bring enough tranquilizer darts?" One replied, "I heard it was Utkyu, so I brought a lot." White, his face pale, pleaded, "Can we really not wait just one more hour? I've actually hired someone to come rescue this dog." With his love for animals, he emphasized, "From what I can see, something must have happened to it. Besides, it has never harmed anyone before." A soldier, gripping his gun tightly, replied to Squid in a cold voice, his eyes as sharp as a knife. "Do you think we came here just to listen to this dog's touching story?" He aimed the barrel of his gun at Utkyu, his voice devoid of emotion. "True, it might be a sad story like you said. Our mission is to keep the public safe." As if sensing the danger, Utkyu lowered its head, panting, with its tongue out, its eyes heavy with sadness. At that moment, the soldier's finger was on the trigger, ready to pull it. Suddenly, a hand as fast as lightning grabbed the gun, stopping him. Selena appeared just in time, her gaze resolute. "You're being too hasty. We need to save this stray dog, so please wait a moment." The dark night sky suddenly seemed to brighten in Utkyu's eyes as a familiar voice echoed. Kim Ojin, wearing Jack's clothes, stepped forward, offering a gentle smile and holding out his hand. "You've been waiting for me for a long time, haven't you? I'm here to take you home." Utkyu lifted its head, its eyes shining brightly. Its tail wagged faster and more intensely, as if all its sadness had vanished. The long days of desperate waiting had been rewarded. It stretched and barked loudly, woof, 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 licking Kim Ojin's hand with its tongue out before jumping on him, filled with joy, forgetting the cold, stormy days. Kim Ojin, playing the part of the deceased owner, stroked its head with a warm voice. "I'm sorry, I'm not the one you're waiting for." He looked at Utkyu with loving eyes. "Let's go home." Under the dark night sky, in the middle of a dense forest, a deer darted swiftly through the lush canopy. Its legs trembled as if chased by demons, its fur standing on end. Its ragged breaths tore through the cold air. After running for its life, the deer stopped, its small body trembling with fear. Its wide, round eyes darted around in utter panic. Not far away, a mysterious dark figure lurked behind an ancient tree trunk. Its glowing yellow eyes flashed with a cold and terrifying light, as if wanting to devour everything. Suddenly, a horrifying sound echoed from deep within the forest, causing a flock of crows to panic and soar into the night sky. A mournful cry blended into the silent night. The scene shifts to the next morning at the small clinic of Kim Ojin, a veterinarian famous for his warm heart but occasional fiery temper. The clinic door burst open. A frantic woman rushed in, her voice trembling. "Doctor, please help me. My baby won't move at all." Kim Ojin looked up, frowning slightly, his curious gaze fixed on the animal before him. Before him was a strange creature. It had large, round, sparkling eyes like a panda, but its chubby little body resembled a mouse. It was Bin Bin, a member of the hamster family. Age unknown, characterized by the bing sound it makes whenever it jumps. At that moment, Bin Bin was devouring the pile of food in front of it, showing no signs of weakness as its owner had claimed. Kim Ojin sighed, his voice calm with a hint of sarcasm. "It can't move because it's too fat." The woman hugged Bin Bin tightly, tears streaming down her face, choking out, "You're lying! My Bin Bin has been very sick lately. It only eats 7 meals a day. How could it be fat?" Kim Ojin's face darkened, a vein popping on his forehead. He tried to suppress his anger, his voice lowering. "If you don't control its weight, it will develop serious health problems." He wrote a prescription and coldly called for the next patient. The door opened again, and a deep, warm voice called out, "Hello, how have you been?" Kim Ojin looked up, a flicker of recognition in his eyes as he saw Sai, an older man with a calm demeanor. He muttered, "You're—" The memory suddenly came back. Sai had once helped Kim Ojin rescue Mark, a brave dog. After losing its owner, Mark lay listlessly by the gravestone, saddening the entire village. Thanks to Sai's dedicated care, Mark gradually opened up again. Kim Ojin smiled, but curiosity arose. "But what brings you here? Is something wrong with Mark?" Sai shook his head slightly, a mysterious glint in his eyes. "It's not Mark. I'm here because of this." Someone from behind stepped forward, carrying an old wooden crate and placing it on Kim Ojin's desk. When the lid was opened, he was stunned. Inside was a mandrake that looked like a ginseng root sitting comfortably with its hands on its hips, eyes shut tight as if in a deep sleep. The plant was enclosed in a glass case, making it look both strange and arrogant. Kim Ojin stared wide-eyed. Selena, his intelligent assistant standing behind him, spoke up. "This is a mandrake root." She added, her voice curious. "How strange. Mandrake roots are usually buried deep underground. Why is it sticking out like this?" Sai sighed and continued. "This plant was very difficult to find. It was considered his personal property. When I replanted it, it suddenly popped up and screamed day and night like a cockatoo. Every time I covered it with dirt, it would dig itself out. The villagers couldn't stand it. Many suffered ruptured eardrums from its screams." Then Selena stroked her chin, her eyes sparkling. "I've heard that some mandrakes are very particular about their environment. Perhaps it doesn't like its current location." Sai shrugged helplessly. "It's not so bad when it's sleeping, but when it wakes up, it's a living hell." He pushed the crate toward Kim Ojin, his voice pleading. "Doctor, please take care of this thing for me. I'm begging you." Kim Ojin was startled, flustered. "Huh? I treat animals, not plants." Sai moved closer, his voice grave. "This thing is not a plant, nor is it an animal. It's a monster, a demon." Kim Ojin smirked sarcastically. "If that's the case, why not take it to a church instead of a clinic?" Just then, the mandrake stirred slightly, green veins becoming prominent on its head. Sai panicked and shouted, "Ah, that demon is about to wake up!" The entire group immediately turned and rushed out the door as if chased by a ghost. Sai yelled back, "I'm leaving it with you." Kim Ojin yelled in frustration, "Hey, don't just push the responsibility off like that." As the group disappeared, he clenched his fist and muttered, "I've seen people abandon animals, but at 23 years old, this is the first time I've seen someone abandon a plant." Selena calmly opened the glass case and smiled. "Well, this is actually for the best. The mandrake is a precious medicinal ingredient. Its leaves and stems can save a dying person, and its root can even bring someone back from the dead." Kim Ojin frowned, his voice filled with doubt. "No matter how rare it is, it's useless if you can't control it." Just then, the mandrake opened its eyes, its sharp gaze sweeping across the room. Selena quickly warned, "Cover your ears if you don't want them to burst." They both immediately covered their ears tightly, holding their breath in anticipation of a horrifying scream. But strangely, the mandrake didn't scream. It looked at Kim Ojin, its gaze suddenly turning coy like a teenage girl's, its cheeks flushing as it mumbled something. Kim Ojin was stunned. "What the hell is this?" Selena giggled. "I think it likes you." He shook his head in disbelief. "Likes me. A plant." In the dim light of the small clinic, a mischievous glint in her eye, Selena pointed to the sparkling necklace Kim Ojin was wearing. Her voice was full of curiosity. "Try taking off your necklace." Kim Ojin hesitated slightly before slowly pulling the necklace out from under his shirt. A flash of silver glinted in the quiet space. Instantly, the mandrake with its bizarre ginseng-like appearance covered its mouth. Its eyes sparkled as if it had spotted a precious treasure, and then it suddenly started dancing wildly in its pot, looking bizarrely excited. Kim Ojin's eyes widened in amazement as he blurted out, "What in the world is happening?" Selena burst out laughing, her voice echoing in the small room. "It's happy. Looks like its mood has improved." Kim Ojin looked at the mandrake, thinking it looked exactly like the dancing sunflower toy he'd once seen at a friend's house. He muttered to himself, "I don't like it at all." They both fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts. Selena broke the silence, her voice gentle but firm. "You'll have to keep it in your room for a while." Kim Ojin glared, his voice filled with discontent. "What? I've never taken care of a plant before." That night, Kim Ojin was jolted from a fitful sleep by urgent knocking on the door, followed by a panicked shout from outside. Doctor, are you in there?" He groggily sat up, his eyes bleary with sleep, and grumbled, "I'm here. There's a 30% surcharge for late-night emergencies." A blue-haired girl burst into the room, cradling a strange creature that resembled a dog, but had delicate wings and a long, lion-like tail. It was trembling and whimpering. The creature was covered in deep scratches, looking pathetic. Kim Ojin lit a candle to observe it carefully, his voice growing serious. Was it attacked by a large beast? It's hard to stop the bleeding with wounds this deep. Selena appeared from nowhere and spoke up. Mandrake leaves are excellent for staunching blood. Kim Ojin nodded curtly. Then get me a leaf. Selena then went into the room, but she stopped short upon seeing the mandrake. It was tensing its body veins, popping, looking as if it were about to fly into a rage. She frowned and turned to Kim Ojin. You ask it yourself. It seems it will only listen to you. Kim Ojin muttered doubtfully. Ask a plant. How can it understand human speech? But he approached it anyway, scratching his head sheepishly. Hey, can I have a leaf? I need it urgently. The mandrake's demeanor changed instantly. Its eyes lit up with joy as it plucked a leaf from its own head and shyly offered it to him. Kim Ojin frowned, thinking to himself, what the hell is with this thing? When the mandrake leaf was applied, the creature's bleeding stopped instantly. The blue-haired girl hugged her darling tightly, tears streaming down her face as she choked out, Thank you, doctor. I will never forget your kindness. Kim Ojin smiled, but his tone was serious. You need to bring it back for a follow-up. The girl nodded eagerly, thanked him profusely, and left. Kim Ojin let out a long yawn and mumbled, So sleepy. Finally, I can get some sleep. But less than 30 minutes later, another shout rang out from outside the door. Doctor, are you there? Kim Ojin clenched his fists, a twisted smile masking his irritation as he cursed to himself, Damn it! Why is someone here at this hour? This time the patient was a small deer covered in scratches similar to the last creature and looking just as wretched. Its owner sobbed, My poor baby is dying. Please save it. Kim Ojin and Selena bent down to examine it carefully. He mumbled, Was it attacked by a creature? Selena remained silent, deep in thought. Kim Ojin continued in a low voice, These aren't the marks of a predator. It was toyed with as if the attacker were a psychopath. The deer's owner asked in surprise, A psychopath? Who would do that? Selena asked curiously, a new monster. I've never heard of one. Kim Ojin sighed wearily. Something like that. Suddenly, a little girl standing nearby spoke up, her voice trembling. I know who the culprit is. It's Baron Dolly's wolf. He likes to take it into the forest to play with the weaker animals. Kim Ojin's face darkened, his voice shaking with rage. No way! Such a lunatic. Doesn't this world have laws to protect animals? How can they let this happen? Selena shrugged, her tone acerbic. Because he's a noble. Kim Ojin tore at his hair and shouted, This filthy feudal society! Long live the law! Long live democracy! Selena asked blankly, What's democracy? I've never heard of that country. Kim Ojin didn't have time to explain, shouting, Let's save the deer first! Hurry! A week later, Kim Ojin's clinic was still mired in an endless string of sleepless nights. The sounds of knocking on the door and calls of doctor rang out incessantly in the middle of the night. He shot up in bed, dark circles under his eyes like a panda's, and his hair disheveled, and growled, I can't take this anymore. I can't live like this. Outside on the street, a crowd was gathered in front of the manor. Baron Dolly held up a banner shouting, Class revolution! Baron Dolly, come out, stop the animal abuse. Ensure their safety. Kim Ojin was there as well, shouting passionately, Baron Dolly, stop this violent behavior now. The crowd chanted in unison, Stop, stop, stop. Suddenly, the manor door burst open. A group of soldiers emerged, causing the crowd to scream in panic. The one in the lead shouted, Who is Kim Ojin? He was startled, his heart pounding as he thought, I've been found out already. News travels fast, he stammered. That's me. But instead of arresting him, the soldiers all clasped their hands and bowed in unison. The leader said, We are to escort you into the castle. Kim Ojin stood there, stunned, his mind reeling with a dozen questions. Inside the castle, a wolf lay gasping on the floor, its neck covered in scratches, looking absolutely wretched. In the dim light of the vast room in the splendid manor, information about the beast became clear. Bloodfang wolf demon, 11 months old, with the peculiar characteristic of having a strange love for sweet potatoes. Baron Dolly stood beside it, his face drenched in tears. His voice trembled with desperation. Please save Ma. I'll give you anything you want. Kim Ojin and Selena exchanged a glance. Both were stunned, thanking to themselves, what in the world is happening? The scene shifted to the next morning. At the town's small market, the atmosphere was buzzing with activity. People gathered in groups, whispering about the horrific events of the previous night, their eyes a mixture of fear and curiosity. A burly bearded man gestured wildly, his booming voice echoing across the market. Did you hear? A demonic beast appeared in the western forest. Even the Baron's wolf was attacked by it. A woman standing nearby with her hands on her hips immediately shot back. That was no ordinary demonic beast. People are saying it's a giant man-eating monster. A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. A young couple clung to each other, their faces pale with fear. The wife held her head and wailed, This village is doomed! What are we going to do? Another person nodded, their eyes panicked. We have to flee to the lower village before it's too late. Suddenly, a tall young man stepped out into the middle of the crowd. He raised a hand, his voice booming like an opera singer's, "Everyone don't be afraid. Baron Dolly has launched a campaign to subdue the monster." The entire market erupted in cheers that echoed all around. The young man continued proudly, "They've set massive traps in the forest. Soldiers are patrolling day and night. It's only a matter of time before the monster is caught." The crowd cheered in unison, their voices filled with excitement. "That's our Baron Dolly. He's so dependable. We can live peacefully thanks to the Baron." Kim Ojin, standing in the crowd, rested his chin on his hand and frowned, thinking, "I don't recall you all praising him like this before. Wasn't he the one just crying and whining while his subordinates did all the work?" Meanwhile, at Baron Dolly's magnificent manor, the scene was the complete opposite. The Baron was rolling on the marble floor, flailing his arms and legs, his face contorted like a child whose candy had just been stolen. He wailed, "Go catch that monster right now! I said to catch it now! How dare it hurt my divine— no, my ma!" The two servants standing beside him, sweating profusely, tried to calm the Baron down. "Yes, I will inform the captain of the soldiers. Please have something to eat." Baron Dolly thrashed about, yelling even louder. "I won't eat! I'm not eating!" Outside, the townspeople were still chanting in unison, "Long live Baron Dolly!" Our hero, Kim Ojin, stood silently, his eyes filled with suspicion, thinking to himself, "Is this some kind of medieval-style public opinion manipulation? Impressive?" Seeing his pensive expression, Selena turned to him and asked curiously, "What is it? You look like you think the whole world has betrayed you." Kim Ojin crossed his arms, his voice low as he analyzed. "Most of the animals that come to the clinic were attacked in the eastern forest, right? But Ma was attacked in the western forest a whole kilometer away from the village. The Baron's soldiers are now focused on hunting the monster in the west, while completely ignoring the eastern forest." He stroked his chin, his eyes twinkling like a detective's. "Of course it makes sense to focus where the monster just appeared, but to ignore the eastern forest like this, something's not right." Selena nodded, her eyes brightening. "I didn't realize there were so many suspicious things. The villagers almost never go to the western forest." Kim Ojin frowned as Selena lowered her voice like she was telling a ghost story. "They say the western forest is full of spooky, creepy things." Kim Ojin's eyes widened. "Ghost stories." "Yes." Before he could ask more, the nearby shop owner poked his head out of a window and called out in a booming voice, "Sorry to keep you two waiting, come on in." He placed an exquisite wooden box in front of Kim Ojin. Inside were 3 sparkling glass syringes shimmering with a golden hue. He proudly announced, "What you ordered is ready." He explained in detail specially reinforced glass mixed with heat and impact-resistant amberium powder with a waterproof deerskin coating. "The needle is made of gold and molten metal. I blew every single piece with my own mouth." Kim Ojin held the syringe, his eyes shining, unable to hide his excitement. "Wow, the craftsmanship in this world is incredible. Is it made entirely by hand?" "No by-mouth. You should call it mouth-made to be precise." The shopkeeper wiped away his sweat and laughed awkwardly. "I followed your blueprint, but it was incredibly difficult. It's my first time making something like this. I can't do it again, sir." Kim Ojin laughed heartily, clapping him on the shoulder. "Don't say that. I plan on working with you for a long time." The shopkeeper shook his head and waved his hands dismissively. "No, I can't do it again." Kim Ojin smirked and pulled a shimmering pouch of gold from his pocket, his voice tempting. "What if I made it worth your while?" The shopkeeper's eyes lit up and he immediately shook his hand, beaming, "I will do my absolute best." And so a partnership was born. Before long, new products appeared: an IV drip made of reinforced glass tubing made from a rubber-like material, a scale, and a luxurious inpatient cage made of golden maple wood. Kim Ojin held the hospital blueprints, pointing proudly. "The first floor will be the examination room and waiting area. The second floor will have 2 examination rooms and the inpatient ward. The third floor is for living quarters. We'll add more equipment later on." "This is the hospital renovation plan." Selena took the blueprints, marveling, "Wow, you're organizing the space like this. It's a complete paradigm shift." In the dim light of the small clinic, Kim Ojin smirked to himself with pride. "This is a modern hospital." "Go on and praise me, you old-timer." Suddenly a voice called out from the doorway. Clear and polite. "Hello." Kim Ojin turned his head, a questioning look in his eyes. Selena immediately spoke up, her voice excited. "They're here." She quickly opened the door, and immediately a group of burly men walked in, carrying large, heavy sacks that they placed neatly inside the shop with dull thuds. Curious Dr. Kim Ojin fixed his gaze on the sacks and asked, "What are all these?" Selena smiled, pointing to each sack with a confident voice. "This is Lunas Flora. Mix it with water to drink or grind it into a powder to inhale. It has an extremely strong sedative effect. Kim Ojin gasped, his eyes lighting up as if he had struck gold. Selena continued, pointing to another sack. These are Brine's tears, an effective painkiller. Operon is used for stomach aches. And finally, you boil and drink the stem of a semiron to treat coughs. And Fluna fruit juice is a powerful antiseptic. Kim Ojin shouted, unable to hide his astonishment. This is insane! An herb that lowers both blood pressure and blood sugar. Are you kidding me? He flipped through the book on herbal properties, his eyes darting around his mouth hanging open. What it cures cancer and dementia, too. Things like this don't exist in my world. An excited fantasy played out in his head. Selena sat enthroned like a queen while he knelt before her, pleading dramatically. Please teach this ignorant fool. Selena giggled. You better start studying. Just then, a little girl burst through the door, panting urgently. Dr. Ojin, come quick, they say they've caught the monster. Stunned Kim Ojin immediately ran after the girl, his heart pounding in suspense. Outside, the sky had turned into a cold, pitch-black night. From the depths of the forest, chilling roars echoed, tearing through the silence. Kim Ojin, along with Baron Dali's men, cautiously advanced into what was believed to be the notorious monster's lair. The thunderous roar made Kim Ojin frown slightly, his heart pounding as he muttered to himself, That sounds like a dragon's roar. What kind of terrifying monster is this? In front of them, a giant animal trap lay smashed on the ground. The steel was twisted as if it had been mercilessly crushed by a monstrous force. A soldier screamed, his voice filled with panic. It broke the trap and got away. Another man yelled with determination. Corner it! There it is. 2 hunting dogs shot toward a flickering dark shadow behind an ancient tree. Their barks echoed through the forest. Kim Ojin held his breath, eyes wide, and thought to himself, Is it really a monster? What could be so terrifying? But when the figure emerged, the entire group froze their mouths agape in disbelief. Before them was not some giant monster, but a tiny kitten, no bigger than a fist, with all its fur standing on end as it let out a high-pitched screech. Its eyes were wide with panic at being surrounded by the crowd. Countless question marks seemed to float above everyone's heads, as if the entire forest itself was dumbfounded. The kitten continued to screech, trying to scare the crowd away, but it only looked like an angry ball of fluff. A soldier stammered hesitantly, My Lord Baron, no matter how you look at it, it's just a stray cat. Baron Dali's face flushed with anger as he yelled, pointing erratically. It's definitely the one. Can't you see my Ma is terrified? Kim Ojin turned and saw Ma, the majestic blood-fanged wolf, cowering and trembling uncontrollably with its fur on end as if in the throes of a nightmare. Baron Dali pointed at the kitten, his voice shrill. Look at its ferocious claws and fangs. Truly an evil creature. Kim Ojin looked at the kitten and thought, this is just like a case of school bullying. A rich, aggressive, yet vulnerable kid with no one to protect them resorting to violence for self-defense. Just like those bullies who attack others and you have to demand their expulsion. His expression darkened as anger welled up inside him. Baron Dali shouted, Throw the net! The soldiers immediately cast a capture net over the kitten. Kim Ojin thought in alarm, This is bad, are they really going to capture it? The Baron continued to roar, his eyes bulging, Chain it up. A bald soldier stepped forward, his voice cold, As you command. The small kitten struggled under the net, crying pitifully, its wide eyes filled with terror. The Baron laughed gleefully, his voice triumphant. Ha serves you right! Destroy that monster. Kim Ojin couldn't bear it any longer and roared, his voice echoing through the forest. No. Baron Dali's face darkened. He growled, his fists clenched. We will let it live. Drag it back to the village to be judged before everyone. He saw the malicious glint in the crowd's eyes. Kim Ojin thought, Are they serious? This is blatant animal abuse? Memories flooded back like a wave. In his past life, he had seen a small cat lying on a treatment table, its body covered in wounds, its eyes dull with pain. A young man had once said with a choked voice that this cat used to be very popular, but that no one had seen it for a long time. It was all because of people. Looking at the kitten before him, Kim Ojin trembled with rage, his fists clenched. He thought, These bastards are no different from demons. The one thing I hate most is animal cruelty. The kitten thrashed, tearing at the net and crying out in despair as if trying to drive the entire world away. A soldier shouted, It's tearing through the net! Quick, get it in the cage! Kim Ojin could bear it no longer, shouting in a steely voice that cut through the howling wind. Stop! He covered his nose and mouth. The stunned crowd turned to stare at him, their eyes as wide as an owl's. Kim Ojin thought, If you're going to act all medieval, then I'll play along. He pointed at the kitten, his voice dripping with drama as he gestured theatrically. Look at its leg. That is the mark of a demon. Baron Dali stared blankly, his mouth agape, a mark. Selena stood beside him, her eyes lighting up with curiosity. The mark of a demon. Kim Ojin pointed to the M-shaped pattern on the cat's forehead, his grand voice beginning to spin a tale more masterful than any artist's painting. That's right. This mark belongs to a great demon, and it will bring a plague upon the entire world. It is the very mark of the Corona Plague. As the name Corona echoed, the crowd in the deep forest was utterly dumbfounded. Their eyes wide, they exclaimed in unison, bewildered. "What is that?" Kim Ojin, still dramatically playing the role of a prophet, stood tall with his hands on his hips. His booming voice echoed as if he were addressing the entire nation. "Listen here. The ones spreading the plague are the cowardly rats minions of the great demon." He paused, his expression darkening, his voice dropping as if telling a ghostly tale. "This cat has eaten those rats, absorbed their demonic energy, and become a carrier of disease even more terrible than them. It has appeared in this land, bringing with it the Corona Plague. And once this disease spreads, half the villagers will perish in agony." The crowd gasped. Shocked screams tore through the air, the cold air of the forest. A soldier, his face red with rage, pointed at Kim Ojin and roared, "Do you take us for fools?" Baron Doyley, sweating profusely, suddenly spoke up, his voice trembling. "Wait!" The soldier turned and called out, "My lord Baron!" But the Baron didn't answer. His face was pale and beads of sweat dripped onto the cold ground. He turned to Kim Ojin, his gaze stern but tinged with panic. "Are you telling the truth?" Kim Ojin, remaining perfectly calm, nodded, his voice firm. "Yes, this plague once ravaged my homeland. To defeat that demon, the entire world had to fight against the plague." The Baron swallowed hard, his eyes wide, his voice trembling. "You mean that cat is a minion of the devil?" Kim Ojin nodded, his face impassive. "That's right, but it's still young, so we can still control it. In my homeland, we created an antidote, and we can do the same here." He turned to Selena, winking repeatedly, his pleading eyes seeming to say, "Please back me up." He asked her, "Isn't that right, Selena?" Selena, after Kim Ojin's grand speech, was still dazed, as if lost in a strange universe, unsure how to respond. But seeing his pleading eyes, she replied nonchalantly, "It's possible. If we use the cat's blood combined with herbs, we can create an antidote for the plague." Kim Ojin pursed his lips, thinking to himself, an antidote for the plague. Am I getting a little too carried away with this fantasy? The soldier, still skeptical, shouted, "My lord, this is absurd!" Baron Doyley, after a moment of stroking his chin in thought, said gravely, "I'll give you 1 week, Kim Ojin. Treat that creature and bring it to the castle. Then we will execute it in front of all the people." Back at the clinic, Kim Ojin let out a sigh of relief, wiping the sweat from his forehead. His voice relieved. "Phew, that was a close call." "Thanks, Selena. You're a better liar than I thought." Selena smirked, her tone nonchalant. "I wasn't lying." Kim Ojin's eyes widened in bewilderment. "Huh?" Selena continued, her eyes gleaming like a mad scientist's. "It's true that we can create an antidote from the cat's blood and a mandrake. But 1 root isn't enough. We'll need 100 mandrakes. This will be a mandrake massacre." The mandrake in the glass case, upon hearing this, looked crestfallen, its veins bulging as if it wanted to scream, "It's over, I'm really done for this time." Selena frowned and turned to Kim Ojin. "But why do you want to save that cat? It's sleeping now, but when it wakes up, we won't be able to handle it." Kim Ojin sighed, his voice low. "This cat isn't the one that attacked the village animals. I've been documenting the symptoms and conditions of the attacked animals. Their wounds have the same size and shape, but the one on Ma is different." Then Selena took Kim Ojin's notebook, flipping through the pages, her eyes lighting up. "So all this time it was Ma who was attacking the animals in the village. This cat was just defending itself, right?" Kim Ojin nodded, but his eyes held a flicker of suspicion. "Yes, but there's something strange. Baron Doyley always uses his power to cover for Ma. So why is he now blaming another animal and organizing this big hunt?" He stroked his chin, his gaze sharp. "Perhaps this extravagant hunt is just a cover. The cat is the real target." Selena nodded thoughtfully. "No wonder he wanted to capture it instead of killing it right away and even believed your absurd lie." Kim Ojin smirked, feigning offense. "Absurd." He continued, his tone more serious. "Besides, the scar on the cat's forehead doesn't look like a normal wound, and its legs are covered in old injuries. It's strange. I'm going to find out exactly what this cat has been through." But Selena looked at him, thinking to herself, "I thought he was just a money-grubbing vet, but now I see he has a heart." But just then her eyes widened. Kim Ojin had at some point leaned down and was burying his face in the cat's fluffy fur, looking ecstatic. So warm, so soft, this is great." He continued to nuzzle the cat, his face pressed into its fur, a childishly innocent smile on his face. Witnessing this scene, Selena immediately changed her mind and muttered, "No, he's still just an idiot." The mandrake in the glass case watched Kim Ojin affectionately petting the cat and suddenly grew furious, its veins bulging as if it wanted to scream. "Why not me?" The next morning, Kim Ojin's clinic was shaken by piercing screeches, like the howls of demons echoing through the space. In the dim light of the small market, townspeople passing by had faces pale with fear. One person stammered, their voice trembling, "What's that sound?" "A monster." A young man nearby, trembling all over, said in a terrified voice, "I've never heard anything so horrifying in my life." An auntie's eyes lit up, and she raised her hand high, shouting like a preacher, "Don't you all see? The sorcerer Kim Ojin is fighting a demon." She continued, her voice full of excitement. "He is purifying the plague-spreading demon to save the entire village." Another man nodded, his eyes filled with awe and disbelief. "So he's not just a veterinarian, but a sorcerer from another world." The crowd outside chanted in unison, their voices roaring like a tidal wave. "Long live Sorcerer Kim Ojin! Long live!" And so medieval public opinion was formed as fast as a storm sweeping through the market. Inside the small clinic, Kim Ojin was a mess, as if he had just survived a life-or-death battle, his hair disheveled and his face covered in sweat. He held a spoonful of food, coaxing gently, "Come on, kitty, please eat." "Just one spoonful. Good kitty, good kitty." But the cat, its eyes blazing, swiped its paw straight across Kim Ojin's face, leaving 3 brilliant red scratches. He growled in frustration, his voice full of discontent. "This little one is as hot-tempered as melting summer ice cream." Selena stood beside him, stroking her chin thoughtfully. "It looks smaller than it did 3 days ago." Kim Ojin looked closely and nodded, his eyes lighting up. "You're right. Not just its weight, its size is much smaller, too." Selena frowned, her voice thoughtful. "It must be a magical beast. Perhaps it's getting weaker because its body is losing mana." Kim Ojin bowed his head and muttered, "Mana or whatever it has to eat. It hasn't eaten anything in 3 days. It's hungry, so it's cranky. Being cranky uses energy, and using energy makes it hungry again. A vicious cycle of hunger and anger." He thought to himself, "If only I had some of my signature Kim Ojin soup right now." Suddenly, a sharp pain in his chest made Kim Ojin jump, his eyes widening. The necklace on his chest vibrated violently, emitting a dazzling light from within. A food bar, identical to the one he had just imagined, suddenly materialized, floating in midair. Kim Ojin shouted in astonishment, "Something just came out!" The food bar unwrapped itself and flew straight toward the cat as if guided by magic, popping right into its mouth. The cat, after a second of confusion, its eyes lit up and it devoured the food bar with absolute delight. Kim Ojin, as if he'd found a treasure, immediately offered more, his voice gentle. "That's right, that's the way. My little darling was so hungry, huh? Yummy, right? Nom nom." Selena watched him turn into a doting mother, her expression frozen, thinking, "Is he even sane?" Suddenly the M on the cat's forehead turned a sparkling white, as brilliant as starlight. Then Selena gasped and shouted, I know that's it." She turned to Kim Ojin, her eyes shining brightly. "Now everything makes sense. This creature is not a cat," she explained slowly, her voice filled with the quality of ancient legend. "A Monoceros, the one-horned lion. When the dragons disappeared in a world overflowing with mana, they were considered divine beasts revered as sacred creatures. Where their horns touched the ground, even deserts would turn into springs. The light from them banishes the darkness. All these blessings come from the heart of the Monoceros, which holds an extraordinary ability to create mana." She paused, her voice dropping mysteriously. "The horn on its forehead is the sacred path for mana transmission. Anyone who touches it even once can hardly escape death." Kim Woojin swallowed hard, his eyes wide, thinking to himself, "This sounds like a Hollywood blockbuster." Then Selena continued, "During the mana famine, the Monoceros population declined. To protect them, smaller versions were bred. But despite their small size, they never lost the pride of a divine beast. No one could tame them except for a healing spirit." Kim Woojin, holding the small cat, suddenly shouted excitedly, "Success! Great job, Kim San-ra. Time for a churu treat." The cat, known as the legendary divine beast, Kim San-ra, meowed happily, its eyes sparkling as if it had just won the lottery. Quick as a flash, Kim Woojin pulled out a churu tube and fed it to the cat, clicking his tongue. "Good job, our little darling." Witnessing this scene, Selena's face darkened as she muttered, "What a disgrace." "Good heavens, this clinic is turning into a zoo, sir." That evening at Baron Dolly's magnificent palace, he roared, his face red with rage. "What?" "That thing is eating obediently." A soldier who had been watching from a distance bowed and reported in a trembling voice, "Yes, sir." Kim Ojin held it in his arms like a baby, and it was acting cute while enthusiastically eating something. Baron Dolly stroked his chin, his eyes narrowing suspiciously. "Impossible." Another soldier entered, his face pale. "Sir, the soldiers are losing sleep over the demon's lion, and now there's the plague." He lowered his voice as if afraid of being overheard. "That cat isn't really an ordinary cat, is it? Humans cannot tame a rhinoceros even if it has lost its power. In the worst-case scenario, the mana in their bodies will turn into toxins and self-detonate. That power is so terrifying that an entire nation could fall into ruin from the disease it causes. Baron Dali frowned, recalling Kim Ojin's words in a pensive tone. At Baron Dali's magnificent palace, he mused with a suspicious tone. His world fought the plague for years, but I've heard a monoceros never eats food given by humans. Does that brat have some kind of secret? The next day at Kim Ojin's bustling clinic, a clear voice rang out like a silver bell. Next patient. The guardian of the Bing Fairy, please come into the examination room. It was Pio, the new employee, with a bright, smiling face and a voice full of life. The exam room is this way. We'll weigh your little one inside. Kim Ojin watched the bustling scene, his heart filled with joy, thinking, now this is a real clinic. Before it was like a free charity house. Inside, Selena was scowling, her voice sharp. Hey, it's too noisy! The little girl holding a small bear named Jingle Pet giggled. It makes noise just by standing still. Selena's face darkened, her voice threatening. Do you want me to cast a spell to silence you for good? Kim Ojin shouted from the doorway, his voice full of reproach for Selena. The customer service here is terrible. Failure, failure. The clinic was now like a chaotic battlefield. A customer was pointed at by Selena's magic staff, a flash of light like a gunshot accompanied by a shout, I told you it's not your turn, get in line. One day, Selena even took a half-day off, leaving a handwritten note on the desk. I'm taking the next few days off. Signed, Selena Kim. Kim Ojin picked up the note veins popping on his forehead and roared, What is this? Handwritten no less. This is a justifiable reason for firing, isn't it? Do you think you're a veterinarian or something? Even a vet wouldn't do this. To salvage the situation, Kim Ojin urgently asked Pio, his neighbor, to work part-time for a few days. The minimum wage in this world was 1 silver coin per hour, but Kim Ojin generously offered 2 coins. Pio immediately nodded, her voice bright. Of course! Unexpectedly, Pio quickly became a star-excellent customer service and an absolute love for animals. She held a small worm, her eyes sparkling. Oh, this marvel. I used to raise one when I was little. Pio's diligent and proactive attitude moved Kim Ojin. Seeing him holding a stack of papers, she quickly ran over. Let me carry that for you, give it here. Kim Ojin looked at her, thinking excitedly. Maybe I should hire her full-time. But then he suddenly realized it was unusually quiet today. A stark contrast to the usual chaotic, market-like noise of clients' pets growling and fighting like cats and dogs. Kim Ojin looked around and muttered, Strange. Why is everyone so quiet today? He had no idea the main reason was the little cat Kim San-ra perched on his shoulder. Its sharp, cold gaze swept over them, making all the pets tremble like leaves. Pio called out loudly, Next patient, please come in. A young boy walked in carrying a panda-like animal. Kim Ojin's eyes widened. Wait a minute, is this Ping Ping? Looking at its current state, Kim Ojin thought to himself, what on earth happened? Back then it weighed just over a pound, now it must be more than 20 pounds. He pointed at the animal, his voice filled with astonishment. Can a hamster get this big? Or are you a panda? The boy grinned widely. How could it be a hamster? It's a flop beer. Kim Ojin froze, scratching his head. Ah, that's right. They call them flop beers here. The boy stepped closer, his eyes sparkling. You know what a flop beer is, right? Kim Ojin frowned and stammered, well, not exactly. Pio quickly came to the rescue, her voice bright. Dr. Ojin is from another world, so he just uses different words. Because of that, he can cure diseases that doctors here don't know about. The boy nodded in admiration. Oh, so you studied abroad. Kim Ojin, his reputation newly crafted, gestured to Pio. In a magnanimous voice, you're hired full-time. Pio cheered, her eyes shining. Thank you. Kim Ojin turned back to the Flopia, his voice serious. Why is this little guy so fat? Its condition is quite good. The fur color is unusual, but the bone structure is still that of a hamster. Could it have been affected by some magic that made it bigger than normal? Suddenly, Kim San-ra from behind its eyes flashed, then narrowed, and it shot towards the Flopia. Kim Ojin yelled, San-ra no! Faced with the threat, the Flopia suddenly split into 3 smaller bodies. Kim Ojin, Pio, and the young boy all gasped in unison, their eyes wide. It split into 3! Kim Ojin clutched his head, thinking, what the hell is this? What kind of crazy world is this? It should at least follow the basic laws of physics. The boy, bewildered, hugged the 3 bin-bins, his voice joyful. Our bin-bin split into 3. It refused the last time we tried to mate it. I'm so happy now. What should I name them? But the 3 small creatures struggled, darted out, and began jumping wildly all over the clinic. Kim Ojin yelled, what the heck are they faster because they're smaller? Suddenly, an arm reached out and snatched all 3 small bodies. It turned out to be Selena, who had just returned, her voice cold. This isn't a flopia, it's a blob. She turned to the boy. Where did they come from? Kim Ojin also muttered curiously. What's a blob? The boy hesitated. I don't know, it was a gift from my father. Could my Bin Bin be a demonic beast? Selena's voice was soft, yet sharp. I was thinking the same thing. She placed the 3 creatures in a cage and continued. Just leave them here for now. The boy was startled. Huh, why so suddenly? Selena's face darkened. Don't worry, I'm not going to dissect them. Kim Ojin quickly reassured him, we won't do anything inhumane. Without the Guardian's consent, we absolutely won't touch them. The boy's shoulders slumped, his voice small. Can I trust you? The sky was gradually turning a sunset gold. In the clinic, Selena began to explain, her voice low like she was telling a fairy tale. Blobs are not normal animals. They are the experiments of a mad sorcerer. An image of a mad scientist in a tattered robe. Laughing maniacally flashed through Kim Ojin's mind. He muttered in a terrified voice, this world has mad scientists too. Selena smiled, but he wasn't entirely a bad person. Although his mistakes cannot be ignored, I thought blobs disappeared 100 years ago. I never expected one to appear here. Kim Ojin was startled, his eyes wide. Huh, how old are you? He thought to himself. I've been wondering why she talks like a little old lady. Suddenly, Kim Sanja behind him meowed fiercely, its fur standing on end. Kim Ojin was surprised. Sanra, what's wrong with you? Just then, a loud call echoed from outside the door. Kim Ojin opened the door. In the tense atmosphere of the small clinic, Kim Ojin and Selena turned around, stunned to see the group of people who had knocked. They were no strangers, they were Baron Dolly's subordinates. Standing imposingly at the door, their presence was overwhelming. As soon as he stepped inside, Baron Dolly shouted, his voice booming like thunder. Hand over that monster. Seeing his unexpected appearance, Kim Ojin thought to himself with great worry, I'm really done for this time. I was planning to hide it or release it within a week, but I couldn't prepare anything because I was still struggling with its eating habits. As for Selena, she had vanished somewhere. Kim Ojin muttered, his voice full of dissatisfaction. What a coward. Finishing his thought, he clasped his hands, forced a smile, and said, Oh, my Baron, you've arrived. Would you like some tea? But Baron Dolly didn't care, snapping, no need for any tea. Just hand over that monster. Kim Ojin broke into a slight sweat, trying to remain calm as he spoke. Oh, what should I do? The treatment isn't complete yet. The 2 men behind the Baron shouted, their voices full of suspicion. Don't lie. But your clinic is still operating normally. Doesn't that prove the treatment is finished? The man next to him nodded in agreement. That's right. Kim Ojin quickly explained, his voice slightly flustered. Well, a small problem occurred during the treatment. Baron Dolly asked, his voice full of doubt. A problem. Kim Ojin continued. During the exorcism, a mysterious imprint formed between me and the cat. Hearing this, the Baron became even more curious, an imprint. Kim Ojin's expression darkened. He continued in a serious tone. In other words, we can't be separated now. This explanation wasn't convincing at all. The 2 men behind him spoke up again sarcastically. What kind of nonsense is this lunatic spouting? Where are they selling whatever you're on? Kim Ojin frowned slightly, thinking to himself, this isn't working. Then the only way is to confront them directly. He turned back, his voice firm. By the way, why do you have a black cat identical to this one in the dungeon beneath your castle? Baron Dolly was startled, thinking to himself, how could he possibly know? Seeing his words hit the mark, Kim Ojin stepped closer and continued. Don't tell me you're planning to hide this cat and execute that innocent one as a replacement. The Baron got goosebumps and said, What the hell are you talking about? Kim Ojin continued in a cold voice. From the very beginning, the one harming the animals in the village wasn't Kim Sanja, but your wolf. Isn't that right? The Baron, startled, yelled, What the hell are you talking about? Do you have any proof? Kim Ojin immediately produced a medical record file and said, If you need proof, look at this. If you compare the wounds in the record with the demon's claws. Before he could finish, one of the men stepped forward, snatched the file, tore it to shreds, and said, Oh dear, the evidence has disappeared. Kim Ojin's face flushed with anger as he thought, Damn it. When will this outdated paper system ever switch to digital storage? Another man stepped forward, pushed Kim Ojin aside, and shouted coldly, Now get out of the way. Seeing him approach the cat, Kim Ojin was startled and shouted, No Sanja! Immediately, the cat Kim Sanja stuck its paw out of the cage and repeatedly clawed the servant's hand with its sharp claws. He shouted in anger, Ah, this damn cat! Kim Ojin thought to himself, filled with worry. What should I do? What should I summon now? An iron cage? No, if I have to use that, I'll be done for too. How about a gun? That's right, lots of guns. Before a stick, all beings are equal. He thought he could take out this whole group with just one bullet for each of them. All right, let's go all out. Kim Ojin tightly gripped the necklace in his hand. He prepared to pull out a few equalizers to quell the riot. Just then, an authoritative voice called out from outside, "Wait!" A group of people who looked like elves entered the clinic with Selena. The person in the middle spoke their voice firm. Everyone stopped. Seeing them, Baron Dali was startled and stammered, "You are?" Observing their attire, the Baron recognized the staff bearing the pattern of the world tree and the mana circlet on their foreheads, and said with a tremble, "You are Kalius, head of the Western Continent's Supreme Supervisory Agency, the Ezeron Society." The three men bowed. The Baron said fearfully, "It is a true honor to meet you." "Why would the Divine Ezeron Society come to such a shabby place?" Kim Ojin muttered in annoyance. "He calls this place shabby." Kalius spoke, his voice calm and steady. "I came because I received a report about the discovery of a rare spirit beast." Kim Ojin marveled to himself, "An elf. This is an elf from the movies. Seeing one in person is amazing. This person looks just like Legolas. This movie buff of ours is really something else." He looked towards Selena, thinking, so this is why Selena has been absent for the past few days. To bring these people here. Then he had a sudden realization. Come to think of it, Selena's ears are pointed too. "Is she an elf too? I never noticed before." Then Selena approached the cat and said, "This is it." Kim Ojin was surprised, but Selena paid no mind to his thoughts and continued, "It's very fierce, be careful." Kalius raised his staff and muttered a few incantations. The cat's face turned pale. The iron cage door opened. An invisible stream of energy surrounded the cat, lifting it into the air. Kalius observed it, his voice certain. "It's definitely a monoceros." He continued as if he had discovered something. Just as Selena said, the wound on its head looks like a cross-section cut from a branch of the world tree. His expression turned to anger. "This is the mark of a mana drainer. Someone has forcibly drained mana from one of the few remaining sacred creatures in the world." He turned to Baron Dali and growled, "Baron Dali, did you cut this child's horn?" The Baron trembled, waving his hands with tears streaming down his face. No, it really wasn't me." In the tense atmosphere of the small clinic, Kalius bellowed, his voice like thunder. "Then who did it?" Baron Dali's three subordinates panicked and turned to flee, stumbling as if they were being chased by demons. Baron Dali stammered, his voice trembling. "I don't know. I really don't know anything. Somebody save me." Seeing the chaotic scene, Kim Ojin thought gleefully to himself, "In this world, the Animal Protection Society is even more powerful than the nobility. This is great, so dramatic." Kalius looked at the cat, Kim-san, and said in a steady voice, "There are very few weapons in the world that can cut the horn of a spirit beast. With just a little investigation, the truth will come out." He turned to Kim Ojin, his eyes sincere. "Thanks to you, we were able to protect this precious spirit beast." Kim Ojin scratched his head shyly. "It was nothing," Kalius continued. "We will take this child back with us to care for it." Kim Ojin froze, thinking to himself, "They're going to take it away." "But that's to be expected." A female elf spoke up, her voice worried. "Oh no, it's breaking the barrier itself." The man next to her replied, his voice full of surprise. "Why is it suddenly doing that?" Kalius reassured them calmly. "Calm down. We are not your enemy." But after just a few seconds, the barrier surrounding the cat Kim-san was broken. It rushed straight towards Kim Ojin, hugging him tightly as if they'd been reunited after 1,000 years apart, its fluffy fur rubbing against his chest. Kalius was taken aback, his voice surprised. "How did it—" "Monoceros." He noticed the necklace around Kim Ojin's neck and stroked his chin. "Wait a minute. That necklace. It seems to be the one. If so, then perhaps that method—" Kim Ojin froze, thinking to himself, "Why are they looking at me like that? It's the same look a professor gives when trying to convince you to go to grad school. I have a bad feeling about this." Just then Selena spoke up. "I think so too." Kim Ojin froze, lamenting inwardly. "Selena too. She's betrayed me." Kalius changed his tone, speaking seriously. "Kim Ojin, I will entrust this child to you." Kim Ojin was surprised. "Is that really okay?" Kalius continued. "Normally it would be best to take both you and the Monoceros back to headquarters for investigation." Kim Ojin turned to stone, trembling as he thought, "What?" "Back to headquarters," Kalius continued. "But since Selena is with you, I feel at ease in trusting it to you." Kim Ojin was surprised. At this, Selena hesitated and gritted her teeth, making him think to himself, "What's with that unenthusiastic reaction?" Kalius muttered a few incantations, pointing his staff towards the cat. A barrier appeared, forming a teardrop-shaped collar around Kim San-ra's neck. Kalius explained in a steady voice, "This is a collar containing the protective magic of the Ezeron Society. It will help this little one recover its power in place of its lost horn." Kim Ojin said happily, "That's great, San-Ra." The cat meowed as if it understood. The female elf continued, "If it's in danger, we will immediately receive a signal for help." Kim Ojin thought to himself, an automatic rescue alert system. Callias took out a ring and said, "This is a token of our sincere gratitude for everything." Kim Ojin exclaimed, "I get a gift too." Callias explained, "This is a ring that carries the power of the Celestine family." Holding the ring, Kim Ojin trembled, thinking, "Why does my body feel so restless? If I wear it, I'll be dragged into a dangerous expedition, shoulder a deadly mission, or be attacked by magical beasts targeting this ring." Seeing Kim Ojin's fear, Callias reassured him, "This ring also has protective magic. If you're in danger, we will immediately receive an emergency signal." Kim Ojin was suspicious, thinking, "Why is this old guy smiling so sweetly?" Callias approached, taking the ring to put on Kim Ojin's hand. "Shall I put it on for you?" Kim Ojin panicked. I'm not mentally prepared." The ring fit snugly on his index finger. Callias smiled. "It's a perfect fit. It looks good on you." Looking at the ring, Kim Ojin frowned, thinking, "I wonder what's going to happen next. Is this going to be okay?" He mumbled humorously, "These lips have only ever eaten rice and fish. They've never kissed anyone's cheek. Our protagonist is 23 years old, but has never even held a girl's hand." Looking at the ring, he thought to himself, "This is the first ring of my life, but why does it give off such a shady, magical aura? Is it suspiciously valuable?" Startled, he turned to Callias and said, "I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I have to refuse this ring." Callias asked in surprise, "Why is that?" Kim Ojin scratched his head and replied, "I really appreciate it, sir, but I work with my hands a lot. Wearing accessories is a bit—" Before he could finish, Callias interrupted, "Why don't you think of it as a piece of jewelry? Like wearing armor?" Kim Ojin looked at the nonchalant old man and thought, "He's completely lost touch with reality." He waved his hand firmly. "I'm a doctor. Having anything on my hands is very inconvenient." Callias smiled. "Then I'll make sure it doesn't bother you at all." Kim Ojin was stunned. "What?" Immediately, Callias mumbled an incantation. The ring on Kim Ojin's hand glowed, startling him, then dissolved into thin air, replaced by a tattoo that appeared on his ring finger. Kim Ojin looked at the tattoo, his jaw dropped as he thought, "This is insane. A tattoo just appeared on my hand, but looking closely, it's pretty cool." Callias explained, "Now place the ring symbol on your chest and say Celestine." Kim Ojin did as he was told, repeating Celestine. Callias's staff glowed, synchronizing with the tattoo on his hand. Callias continued, "Now you can communicate remotely with anyone who possesses a Celestine." The tattoo projected a small screen showing Callias's image like a video call. Kim Ojin exclaimed, "Remote communication is like a video call." Callias nodded. "Celestine is a gemstone that transmits sound. Now try saying light." Kim Ojin asked curiously, "Light?" The tattoo immediately turned into a super convenient flashlight. Kim Ojin shone it around excitedly, nodding repeatedly. "Of course! I love it!" Callias laughed. "It has many other features. You can discover them on your own. But the most important function is protection." In the small clinic, Kim Ojin's eyes sparkled as he said excitedly, "Thank you so much for this wonderful gift." Callias nodded in satisfaction, a gentle smile on his face. "I'm very happy you like it." Standing nearby, Selena frowned and thought sarcastically, "A moment ago, he said he'd rather die than wear it." "Now look at him!" Callias suddenly asked, his voice curious. "By the way, where did you get that necklace on your chest?" Kim Ojin awkwardly scratched his head. It's a bit of a long story." "Well, a dragon gave it to me." Callias was surprised, his eyes widening. "A dragon? You've met a dragon?" Kim Ojin nodded calmly. "Yes." Callias pondered, his voice full of doubt. "But dragons went extinct 1000 years ago." Kim Ojin froze, thinking to himself, "Extinct." Callias continued, "Does that mean you've been alive for 1000 years?" Kim Ojin raised his hands in protest. His voice hurried. "Come on, no way! I'm still young, just in my early 20s. He explained, his voice full of discontent. "Actually, a dragon's pet got sick, so it called for a veterinarian. I happened to be that veterinarian. As payment, it gave me this necklace and promised to send me back to my original world. But instead, it threw me into this godforsaken place." He sighed, his voice dejected. "Thinking back, everyone here knows a lot about magic, right? Does anyone know how to get me back to Earth?" Everyone's expression suddenly darkened, and the silence became suffocating. Kim Ojin thought to himself, "Why is it so quiet?" Suddenly, all three of them exclaimed in unison, their voices full of reverence, "O healing soul, we are honored to meet you." Kim Ojin was startled, his voice bewildered. Healing soul? He calmed down, remembering that the damned dragon had also called him that. An image of the dragon appeared in his mind, its eyes holding a pained smile. He quickly said, "Everyone calm down, this is just a misunderstanding. I'm just an ordinary guy. I eat 3 meals a day, I don't put my shoes on the wrong feet, and I know to get in out of the rain. I don't do anything bizarre. I was summoned by mistake by that damn dragon." He continued, his voice resentful. "It wasn't even sick, just poorly cared for. I didn't even get to treat it for anything," Callias said seriously, "but you still received a necklace bearing the power of a dragon." Kim Ojin mumbled, "Well, I needed something to cover my travel expenses." "I mean, I was forcibly dragged to another world." Callias suddenly grabbed his hand, making Kim Ojin jump as his heart pounded. He said, his voice grave, "This world is facing a serious crisis." "Have you heard of mana?" Kim Ojin stammered. "Huh? What, never heard of it?" Callias explained slowly, "Mana is the sacred energy that created this world, and it is present everywhere. Thanks to mana, the world thrives. Beings that store a lot of mana become more powerful and sacred. But ever since the dragons went extinct, spells have gradually been disappearing. Next were the Leviathans, and then the world tree began to wither. If this continues, the mana will run out and the next generation will face extinction." He continued, "To deal with this, the leaders of the clans established the Ezeron Society." Kim Ojin thought to himself, "Is this organization like an environmental protection agency?" Callias continued, "Kim Ojin, there is an ancient legend. The healing soul bestowed by a dragon wearing the item on their neck will save this world." Kim Ojin was bewildered. "Wait, are you saying I have to save this world?" Callias nodded, his gaze certain. "That's right. We have been waiting for you all this time." He stepped forward and grasped Kim Ojin's hand, his eyes affectionate. "Wait." Kim Ojin got goosebumps and stammered, "Hold on. I think there's a huge misunderstanding here." The three of them knelt down in unison. Callias declared, his voice echoing, "From this day forward, the Celestine family and the Ezeron Society will dedicate their lives to protecting you." They said in unison, "Kim Ojin, we will do our utmost for you." Kim Ojin panicked. "What? There's no need for that. I'm going to lose my mind." He just wanted to disappear from this world. The image of the damn dragon appeared in his head, causing him to mutter, "You damn dragon." The scene changes to the clinic the next day. Kim Ojin called out loudly, his voice full of energy. "Next patient." The patient was a flying fish named Lumi, 42 years old, a very popular type of pet. After an examination, Kim Ojin concluded, "Its nutritional status is good with no signs of illness." The pink-haired girl asked worriedly, "Then why can't it fly?" Kim Ojin replied gently, "It's probably due to old age. The average lifespan of a flying fish is 50, and Lumi is already 42. The girl nodded sadly. "What you're saying makes sense. But is there any way to slow down its aging or help it fly again, even if only temporarily?" Kim Ojin shook his head. "That's a bit difficult. Aging is natural. We just have to accept it. No one wants that." The girl's expression was sad. She continued, her voice choked with emotion. "Actually, my father has been bedridden with an illness since last year. He loves flying fish and raised a whole school of them. But since he got sick, the fish have also weakened, and one by one, they've stopped flying due to old age. Now Lumi is the only one left that can still fly." She hugged the fish, her voice trembling. "Lumi is very special to my father. He took it everywhere. When he proposed to my mother, he gave her Lumi instead of a ring." Kim Ojin was startled. "What?" "A fish instead of a ring. This world is so weird." Selena interjected nonchalantly. "That's right. Keeping flying fish used to be a trend here." Kim Ojin shouted, "What?" The pink-haired girl continued. "That was a long time ago. It's not common anymore. Flying fish can glow in the dark. When they fly in the night sky, they look like stars, so they were often used in festivals." She went on, "My father went to great lengths to find Lumi and had it fly in the night sky when he proposed to my mother. My parents lived happily until my mother passed away from an illness a few years ago. Since then, my father has been devastated just staying in his room taking care of the flying fish. He once said that if the school of fish lost their ability to fly, his life would be over too." Amid the bustling atmosphere of the clinic, Kim Ojin murmured with a sigh, "Why is this so much like a fish version of The Last Leaf?" "This old man is really sentimental." Selena asked curiously, "Why don't you just buy him a new school of healthy flying fish?" Kim Ojin shouted in surprise, "Are you kidding me?" He thought to himself, exasperated. How can Selena be so simple-minded? The pink-haired girl knelt and begged, her voice trembling as she clasped her hands. "I'm begging you, please help Lumi get well and fly again. Please save my father from despair." Kim Ojin looked at the fish Lumi and sighed, his voice gentle but firm. "I've already told you it's healthy, just very old." The pink-haired girl confessed, her voice choked with emotion. "If Lumi can't fly anymore, my father will lose all hope." She clasped her hands and continued to plead, "Please help Lumi fly again. Please save my father." Kim Ojin sighed and explained, I've already told you the fish is just old. All right. He continued calmly, as for your father, you should find a doctor. Why ask someone like me? It's true that the emotional bond with a pet can affect one's health. But he slapped his forehead wearily, recalling his past clients. A girl once came in, hugging her cat and lamenting, my eldest son won't eat, so I won't eat either. It turned out her eldest son was the cat. Kim Ojin replied helplessly, as a guardian, you at least have to eat. Another time, a girl came in crying while holding her dog. Is it because he's old that he can't run? If my baby dies, I don't want to live anymore. Kim Ojin explained, its kneecap is dislocated, so please be mindful. Through many cases, he realized these effects were often negative. The scene shifts back to the present as the door bursts open. An urgent voice called out, please promise me! Startled Kim, Ojin turned around muttering, what is it this time? It was the people from the Celestine family. Callias spoke in an authoritative voice, spirit healer. Kim Ojin panicked and then suddenly woke up realizing it was all a dream. Seeing Kim Sanja still safe on his familiar bed, he muttered, what a weird dream. In the morning, Kim Ojin started his day with dark circles under his eyes like a panda calling out loudly, good morning, everyone. Now Bio looked at him wondering, gosh, your face. She wasn't any better with the exact same dark circles. She sighed. Actually, I couldn't sleep last night. But you're still worried about the flying fish from yesterday, right? Kim Ojin shook his head, not really. Bio continued in a somber tone, it's heartbreaking. On the outside, it looks like a sign of old age, but it's actually due to mana deficiency. Kim Ojin thought to himself, mana deficiency. Bio explained, I remember when I was little, the adults said that flying fish stopped glowing because the mana in the air decreased. With this school, they will lose their ability to fly. Kim Ojin was startled and muttered, it's like environmental pollution, isn't it? The ecosystem of this world must have a problem. The image of the 3 Celestines from his dream appeared. He frowned. Yesterday's dream again. Then Selena walked in and said, it's not just the flying fish, more and more animals are getting sick. Most cases have unknown causes or are attributed to old age, but they are all related to mana deficiency. The clearest evidence is this Monoceros. Looking at Kim Sanja lying majestically like a king, Kim Ojin muttered, that's right, Sanja was originally a lion. He softened his tone, speaking affectionately. Anyway, this little guy's as cute as a cat. I wonder what he looks like in his lion form. Would he still lick his fur like this? Suddenly he stopped muttering, licking fur. Wait a minute. He turned to Bio and asked, the flying fish's guardian, what illness does her father have? Bio replied, an illness that makes bones weak and prone to breaking. Kim Ojin turned to Selena and asked, what medicine do people usually use? Selena answered, it's just a rudimentary idea, but there's bone-mending root flower, pain-relieving bloodroot, and some supplementary herbs. Kim Ojin asked again, among those which one has long-term side effects? Selena replied, bloodroot causes fatigue and nerve paralysis over time. Kim Ojin exclaimed, thinking to himself, that's it. He asked, is there a remedy for the side effects? Selena nodded, yes, but it only delays them. Kim Ojin decided, his voice firm, that's fine, just show me how to prepare it. Selena pointed behind her, it's behind me. Kim Ojin was bewildered, huh, behind you? Then he realized and exclaimed, the mandrake. He approached the mandrake and said, you heard us talking, right? I just need a few leaves to make the medicine. He reached out to pluck a leaf, but the mandrake frowned, looking sulky. Kim Ojin was surprised. Huh, what's wrong? He changed to a coaxing tone. Come on, please. The mandrake was startled and let out a loud scream. The scream gave Kim Ojin and Bio goosebumps, and they quickly covered their ears. Kim Ojin frowned. What's wrong with you? Why did you suddenly scream like that? You almost burst my eardrums. Bio intervened gently. Don't be so harsh. Maybe it's sad because you only come to it when you need something. You've been with Sanja all the time lately. Kim Ojin frowned, thinking to himself, I've never grown a plant that was this emotional. Bio suggested you should at least give it a name. Kim Ojin was surprised. A name. For a plant, the mandrake whimpered as if to say, your daddy is sad, hurry up and comfort me. Kim Ojin gritted his teeth and muttered, damn it. Now I have to worry about a plant's feelings. This world is truly crazy. After a moment of thought, he pointed at the plant and declared Kim Mandol. Hearing the name, the mandrake became delighted, its eyes bashful. Information appeared in Kim Ojin's mind, Kim Mandol. Species mandrake. Attribute jealous. He laughed heartily. Awesome, Mandol, congratulations. Watching this bizarre act, Selena remained silent, her expression unreadable. In the quiet atmosphere of the clinic, Kim Ojin returned to the main topic. In a gentle but firm voice, he said to Kim Mandol, all right, Mandol, just give me 2 leaves, okay? The mandrake, now cheerful, gave a cute wink and plucked 2 lush green leaves for Kim Ojin. He took the leaves, muttering doubtfully, "This still feels a bit creepy." Bio smiled brightly, her eyes sparkling with envy. "Both plants and animals adore you." Selena quietly approached Kim Ojin and said in a calm voice, "Kim Ojin, may I borrow your necklace for a moment?" She glanced at the necklace in his hand, muttering, "It looks ordinary, nothing special." She petted Kim Sanja and Kim Mandol, but both reacted fiercely, making Selena frown and think to herself, "It's not the dragon's power in the necklace that makes them friendly, but it only works on Kim Ojin." She asked curiously, "Kim Ojin, how do you activate the necklace's power?" Kim Ojin scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Well, when I focus on what I want, my chest feels tight and then the power erupts." "I think so," Selena muttered thoughtfully. "The power is linked to his heart." Kim Ojin held the necklace and smiled faintly. "As soon as I touch it, they cling to me like it's mealtime." He took out a piece of candy and gave it to Kim Sanja. "Here, have a bite." Selena thought worriedly, "Giving candy to a Monoceros is too dangerous." Seeing Kim Sanja eating a lot, Kim Ojin stopped him gently. "That's enough for today." Just then, Bio turned around and said excitedly, "Sir, I finished grinding the leaves." Kim Ojin nodded. "Thanks." From Kim Mandol's leaves, he prepared a small vial of medicine, his eyes focused. Bio asked enthusiastically, "Should I bring the medical bag for you?" Kim Ojin nodded. "Yes, please get the large bag for me." Afterward, Selena watched his every move, muttering, "Kim Ojin, is he really a spirit healer?" The scene changes to the house of the pink-haired girl, L'Oreal. She opened the door to her father's room and said gently, "Father, it's time for your medicine." But immediately the sight before her left her stunned. Her father had fallen on the floor with the 2 flying fish beside him. She rushed over, shouting in a panicked voice, "Father, are you all right?" She helped him up, and he replied slowly in a weak voice, "I'm fine." But L'Oreal was still worried and said reproachfully, "Why did you try to get up by yourself?" He held one of the fish in his arms and said gently, "Lumi seemed to want to look out the window, so I was going to let it take a look." Hearing this, L'Oreal raised her voice, "Then you should have called me or someone else. Why did you try to walk on your own? You're already weak. What would I do if something happened to you? I don't have much time left to live anyway." "Why do you keep saying things like that?" "Your condition is getting much better." "L'Oreal, not everyone dies from illness, my child. When a person loses their will to live, they are as good as dead." "Father, please don't say things like that anymore." "That's not right. People can die from misunderstanding a prescription, not knowing enough about it, as well as from unhealthy habits and not knowing how to take care of themselves." "Dr. Kim, who are you?" "I'm Kim Ojin, a veterinarian. The reason Lumi can't fly isn't because of old age, but because of a side effect from the medicine you're taking." "What do you mean I'm the one taking the medicine, so why is Lumi suffering the side effects?" "Flying fish now live on land, but they still retain some habits from their time in the water. One of those is licking a bit of food or a person they like. In other words, the reason Lumi lost its ability to fly is because it overdosed on the medicine residue on your hair and beard." "That's impossible. They don't lick my hair." "You didn't know, Father. When you sleep, they lick your hair and beard all night long. So that's why my beard is always so shiny." "Yes, which is why I've prepared a treatment. With this medicine, they will recover in less than 2 days." He opened the medicine box, which contained 2 syringes and 3 vials of medicinal fluid. Bio picked up a syringe. Kim Ojin turned to the old man. "From now on, you must wear a hairnet when you sleep." The old man replied immediately, "I'll just shave everything off." Kim Ojin nodded with a slight smile. "That works too." With Bio's help, Kim Ojin easily injected the medicine into the small fish. Now Pio spoke, his voice gentle. "I'll hold it like this." There, little one." Seeing the fish struggling, Kim Ojin held it down, saying, "This one's a bit rebellious." Pio replied, "Then I'll hold it tighter." After a brief struggle, Kim Ojin announced excitedly, "Done! Once the medicine takes effect, they'll recover quickly." The 3 fish now looked as if they had played too hard, their eyes dazed and listless. Just a few minutes later, one began to come to its senses, flapped its wings, and shot up into the air, sparkling like a little star. Inside the small house, the old man's eyes lit up, his voice filled with joy. "Oh, it's working!" As soon as it could fly, the Lumi fish rushed toward him, making him so happy he was on the verge of tears. His trembling hands cupped the small fish, and he broke into a radiant smile. "This isn't a dream, is it? This is wonderful, truly wonderful." Seeing the results of his work, Kim Ojin was pleased, his heart filled with pride. "The medicine is effective. They've gotten better in just a short time," Pio added excitedly. "What a relief!" Kim Ojin looked down at the remaining fish starting to make their first movements, his eyes sparkling. "The rest of them will recover soon, too." L'Oreal cried out, her voice emotional. "Thank you so much, Doctor!" Suddenly, a small fish shot toward Kim Ojin like an arrow. Luckily, he managed to catch it, but right after another one flew up and bit his hair, making Kim Ojin cry out in pain. "Hey, what's going on? Why did it suddenly do that?" Then from all sides, countless small fish flew in, biting mercilessly, causing him to shout, "Are these flying fish piranhas or just crazy?" The scene shifted to a small fish on the floor, its whole body trembling strangely. Seeing this, L'Oreal's father's eyes widened. He mumbled, his voice full of suspicion. "Could it be?" Right after, the loomy fish emitted a strange light, lifting it into the air. Kim Ojin was surprised by the unexpected development, while L'Oreal and Selena beside him watched in awe, their eyes sparkling. The remaining fish also flew up one by one, emitting eye-catching beams of light as brilliant as stars in the night sky. Looking at the scene, tears welled up in the corners of L'Oreal's father's eyes, his voice trembling with joy. He replied, memories of the past flooding back. The small fish flew around in the sky, emitting romantic bursts of light. His wife at the time looked at them, her eyes filled with delight, and said, "This is the first time I've ever seen anything so beautiful. Thank you, Fred." He was moved and, gathering all his courage, held her hand tightly. "Will you be mine?" She nodded without a moment's hesitation. "I do." Back in the present, a small fish flew in front of him, emitting a light just like in those beautiful years. Seeing this, Kim Ojin's heart also softened at their beauty, and he was deeply moved. Pio turned excitedly, his voice cheerful. "Now I know why flying fish are used for marriage proposals." Kim Ojin replied humorously, "Yes, but you still can't use them because that would be animal abuse." Pio pouted, "Yes, sir." Watching the two of them talk, Selena muttered thoughtfully, "To make them fly and glow just by having them lick his blood and hair. I know he's not an ordinary person, but is he really the person this world needs?"